SEL Season 5 continues to kick off with more Valorant action this week on top of yesterday's B stream. We're back on the A stream for tried and true SEL Valorant. My name is Infamous, joined here by my good friend Mick, aka Dallas, and we've got a selection of teams here. Top upper echelon of our tier 2 block, Dallas.
Right. I mean, most definitely. Consider what we dealt with so far. Obviously, last week, look at the tier one seed. We even had that Wednesday stream going yesterday. We looked at tier two, but I mean, going ahead, running things back once again, looking at tier two. I'm happy to see that we are kind of giving that spotlight. I was even wondering at the beginning of the season whether or not we are actually be showcasing these teams on a regular basis, whether they're going to be kind of within consideration. And with you and me being basically the end all be all of decisions, I think it was a pretty easy executive call considering so many teams from the legacy of SEL in the past year now kind of dropping into that T2 area. We know what they're made of. We know what they're capable of. And even then, with a chance at land, they still need to be shown of what they got.
I believe this is the third and fourth seeded team right now at the top of tier 2. So we're saying the upper echelon. UCF
Right.
Knights Academy facing off against Niner Esports. And they got a fancy new logo to go alongside their game and matchup here today. So make sure you keep your eye out on that. Let them know if you like it. I think it's pretty cool. Nonetheless, I'm actually fairly excited for this one, Dallas, because we saw what I would say is middle to slightly lower middle of the bracket side for tier 2 block yesterday with that UNA game versus GMU. If I'm not blanking, I may be blanking.
UNA versus USC is what yesterday
USC. Thank
was.
yes, USC B team. I don't know why I said GMU. I've had too much GMU on my mind apparently recently editing their videos. I digress. We now get to see what the top of the tier 2 block early in the season is going to look like. And with both these
Right.
teams coming away with very solid victories, I think it was 13-3, 13-5 was about the average result for their two maps and their 2-0 series that they both took in week
Yeah.
one. I'm expecting this will be a fairly close matchup, a lot like we saw that game yesterday was at the end of the day when it went into map 3 as well.
Right. I mean, consider what we're dealing with in these two teams. Obviously, been in the upper echelons, you mentioned a tier two. That should be a bit of a wipe. But considering that yesterday we did even in torsos, kind of lower teams already get to see that third map come underway, we should predictably be seeing the same exact thing here. But all things considered, if we're going to be talking about maps, we're going to be talking about teams. Let's go ahead and get everything thrown up on the screen for the viewers so they can have a better understanding of what we're working with. Because Lotus, Bind, and Haven is going to be the entirety of our series that we're working with. And honestly, I like the diversity of this one. I like to see that Lotus obviously being a little more slower, considering that you do have those three sites to work off of, and seeing that obviously on the the opposite end of what our map picks are, we're seeing Haven once again, another three-site map. So I
Yeah.
mean, both of these teams, they're okay with that kind of environment. They feel like they excel in it to leave them all up. But even better yet, you do have that kind of little niner twist in there where they throw bind inside the mix, where it says, well, we do have a lot of three-site maps. Bind is something different to where we actually kind of got to play this out. If you leave Haven there at the end, that lets the UCF Academy know that maybe they love these three site maps and maybe we made a mistake and not really going for something that was a little more specialized towards our liking.
We always talk about how Ascent is usually left to be that decider. It made it all the way there to the end, and the Niner got to
Right.
essentially take the pick of that final map by getting that last ban. So a lot of things, a lot of emphasis you could make, but the fact that they don't want to play Ascent probably puts the inkling of suspicion in my mind, Dallas, that they do think this is actually going to be a fairly close game. And if it does
Yeah.
require to go to third, the last thing you want to do is go to a map where literally every team can specialize on because every team has played it a trillion billion times to this point. It's just the most played map. It's the Mirage of CS. It's the, I don't know the name of League of Legends maps. It's just the map you look at for Valorant, right? So you don't
Right.
want to really let that be when it's already so close to these third and fourth seeded teams. I like the fact we're heading to Lotus first. Agent selection has varied quite heavily in collegiate for a while, especially when you're comparing the South and the East teams. In CVAL, there's a huge difference for your initiators. Some teams have fallen more into having Gecko. Some teams still want to have that Tasmanian Tiger and Sky. They like the Guiding Light people send out through a main. No matter what the case may be, in SEL, I'd like to see these agent selections kind of stabilize. These teams kind of fall into that status quo before they start making changes in the final week to 2 weeks of the season when we start playing into big playoff contention. We start trying to figure out which teams are truly going to be taking that first place.
And I feel like that's why Ascent's always been a bit of a lingering afterthought for teams. I mean, while it's always been on the board, it always makes itself into the game, into the band pick fairly late. I think the biggest thing is the just accommodation of the agent selection for these teams because when we do get these new maps come underway, all these changes, all these kind of meta shifts where people want to be playing, as you mentioned, more geckos, even then kind of maybe want to introduce new things here and there. Neon also coming into play. It's just at that point where honestly, I think all these teams are getting so much more adjusted to all these different agents that if they were ever forced to go right back into the roots of Ascent and play the kind of tried and true, they haven't really prepared Ascent too much. It feels like everybody says, we figured Ascent out. We don't need to do anything with it. And we know what the compositions look like. But I think everybody kind of wants a lot more flavor. While Ascent feels like vanilla, it feels like while it's reliable and it's there, it's not really what people want. They want to kind of explore new horizons. They want to make the game interesting. They want to play around with different compositions. They want to go and appreciate other maps. And as we find ourselves on Lotus here to start things off, I mentioned the Neon. I mentioned the other kind of picks that are coming away. Astra being another one that with these recent buffs coming away could also be a possible pick. That is if, as we mentioned yesterday, at least on stream, if your member who's on that Astra is okay with the weight on their shoulders from that pick just accordingly. But even then more so here, I think Lotus is only the real map that we see Fade come underway. A lot of other maps, we haven't really seen too much Fade. I remember Fade being huge and Haven there kind of during those earlier days. But I mean, obviously you're going to be sacrificing a Breach and a Sova, which just kind of feels marginally better. But here on Lotus, I mean, there's just so many angles to take advantage of it.
Yeah, Fade is... It's a little bit harder to get those lineups working perfectly and to make full use of her kit, but once you can and your team is start to really build that into their scrims and start to add that to their repertoire, it adds a whole lot of value. The Astra as well, I highlighted this a lot yesterday and I will continue to harp on this. You have to be the end-all be-all for your team if you're going to play Astra. Having that extra star getting added in a recent patch that just takes you from what was already an exceptionally high level of play, but elevating that even further and making it back to the days where even VCT lock-in pro strategic coaches are saying Astra is broken, Astra is overpowered, and we're back up to that with a single addition of a star. You can just make that point even more known, especially in collegiate bag. A lot of weight here and a lot of expectations from me specifically to try to see you highlight here. It'll be a lot easier for just Aiden to set that up, especially with the fact that a lot of the walkways into these sites are fairly tight funnels. A is a lot more open in comparison, but the paranoia on B entry and on the cross into C, even if you send that from B, is going to be a whole lot easier to use against you on when you're on the defense, and it'll be a whole lot easier to use on the attack to make sure you can clear out the majority of those sites.
Right. I mean, considering already what this map offers, I mean, knowing that it just kind of feels a little bit slow to get things started. You see all these kind of big 1v1s or shootouts that occur right there, especially towards Mount on that seaside. It's a bit interesting to say the least at Niner Esports. Let's go ahead and open things up with a very, very fast BX, which I love to see. You always know that only one player's going to be here more times than not, so you overwhelm those players early on. And even then, sometimes, if nobody's there, you want the blood. You are feeding for it. And here you go. Shift that attention over to Seaside. Overwhelm these guys. Say, you know what? We may have shifted objective here, but we still get the result nonetheless.
Interesting spot to try to lie in there for just Aiden. Had assistance from Pichu, but will not matter. Inevitably, they'll die. Stuck inside Waterfall. Sanctify keeps them a little bit there for too long. Niner Esports liked the option of B, took it, swung it all the way to C, and now are making full effective with a plant down on site, forcing cores away. C's away, apologize.
Find you.
We stunning concussed as well. Han goes up over the top, closer to
one
default,
enemy
but it
remaining.
won't matter. C still holding above, takes down the doppelganger and assists the kill for Pichu on the Frosties. Round one for Niner Esports in a pretty spectacular fashion on that swift execute to B and the lap back to C to get the extra frag.
I mean, just great plays here for Niner Esports. Even then, I mean, the way they shifted their attention and Singularity Knife, somebody been having that vandal. But all things considered, I mean, look at how they started that things out on B and how close they got. And even then getting that little tiny bit of a, just that kind of baiting the spike to some degree. It's the small things I talk about that really add up to the bigger picture. Getting that spike tap down, going ahead, giving that idea over to these seed players who are rotating, who are so short to say, get closer, get towards that waterfall area, find yourself inside that elbow, that little connecting hall, and then guess what? Niner Esports says, all right, cool, you guys are a lot closer to us. These classics can now right-click and find themselves some easy kills. Speaking of close quarters, we got a Neon pushing all the way up, and it's not really surmounting the mod size one, which is Apollo and Assure able to go ahead and close things out. Still Niner Esports, with the better guns, you're expecting to come out on top of an engagement, and they should have free leeway over to the A side, because while they're moving a little bit slow, because you're expecting, well, they didn't allocate all their players right there towards the start. Surprise, surprise, they basically.
Yeah, and this now gives the two players that were on the B side the chance to pick up some of those SMGs that were dropped from the Niner Esports players that just went down. Turret will be forced to be cleared. There is still the option of pressing door and having a switch open, but still need to make sure you have a way to direct in towards side. Toss up the hot over the top. Bag will take a wild swing forward. Constellation down to the smoke. The player swinging too. Well, you are vulnerable. You lose your teammate in the self-melt swoop. You're gonna have to rely on a Guardian you now collected. Flick to seize, no good. And the Bulldog reigns true and supreme in round 2. But a costly round for Niner Esports, utilizing Frosty's kit to get you so deep off the trunk into A main, and letting Azura go big with a kill and Apollo as well. It just burns the eco of Niner Esports heading into round 3.
Right. I mean, seeing what they're doing, I mean, obviously you're expecting Niner Esports to go ahead and win out that round. They have a couple rifles carrying things over, but I mean, it's just a Phantom, it's just a Guardian. But still, if they find the right side to make this approach really work, they can make sure to use those close quarter guns as well. The 2 Stingers, I mean, you're expecting probably maybe a bit of a C push, a B push, maybe kind of replicating that round 1 strategy that we saw go underway. But I mean, really, there's a lot still out here to kind of think about, especially when you're looking at these engagements. Considering you have 2 long-range guns that kind of go back and forth between, the C-mount fight also looks feasible. Looks like you want to at least kind of look for something, see if anything's given up. But I just don't really know if we're going to be finding that as they shift their attention over towards A to see if they can win those long-range in combats and maybe pick up another gun off the back of it. Colby, quick favor. There we go. Stay on Frosties for me. I need to see how this thing looks.
Not because Frosty's is in a good spot. Just needs to see the Vandal. Out comes their Prowler. Ruda tosses the paint shell closer to Kabe. Frosties will clear them, not a problem. Flash out as well. Sif. 2 more teammates nearby. Ready. Concussive blast. Hot has to be cleared. Frosties marked. Hellish land to be within. Thankfully, a teammate close by to help. But if you thought things are going to get any easier, you'll get tangled and stuck for just a moment longer. Niner Esports, they liked what they had on A initially, but Frosties just refused to move. They'll have to rotate elsewhere, and this is where Bag can get their bag. One hoping for a second,
remaining.
gets it. A
30
third,
seconds
not gonna
left.
allow. Sees now the last player standing for Niner Esports. Collecting a proper Vandal in front. Nano Swarm, not going to matter. Forces them forward, and Ghost shuts them down. UCF Academy taking round 3.
I mean, outstanding. Even then, just going ahead, Bag there, basically clean up at their AK there. I mean, already going ahead, getting 2 of them, doing enough damage to surmount that last kill, just be essentially free. And speaking of free, Riot's about to get some of my money. I'm breaking out my wallet. That thing looks good.
You did say before the game you were going to buy it.
It sounds good, too. That's the whole thing. That's my thing. As an audio engineer and going to school for that, that's where my degree comes in. It makes me have those little tisms on the small things. But as it already says, I mean, outstanding work from Niner Esports and what they've accomplished here. I mean, already you're seeing the attacking side, seeing what they're getting done, but even more so, I want to look at UCF Academy in this defense now. They really started to culminate it in the long scheme because, I mean, while they have 3 guns carriers in that last round, I love to see what kind of work they can put in when it comes around to these retakes because we haven't seen those coming away just yet. With the plant possibly going down, it's at this point where 4 rifles are in place, so you can't make that decision anymore. You need to get the spike down when the opportunity
Spike planted.
Frosty's trapped. Will not be surviving too much longer. UCF Academy. 2 players on a retake. It's not super hot. It's not super great. And both of them coming from the exact same angle. This spells disastrous. D's, C's. Why am I just misspelling their names so consistently? It's been 4 rounds, and I still can't get it right. They'll rotate elsewhere, though. Bang does not like the idea. Ghost not far behind. The weapons aren't here. Maybe they go for a save, but they're not even given the chance to stray away and step away. Ghost was on the flank, gets the refrag, but Aiden assists, supports, and it's a round win for Niner Esports.
Definitely is. I mean, seeing what this team does. I mean, we've seen this team over and over again. We've seen on our esports over the years and what they've accomplished and what they've been managed to do again and again and again. So, I mean, we already know that. I mean, they are the main team compared to UCF, where this is their tertiary or secondary team. So, I mean, obviously, they're going to have a lot more experience just kind of having that synergy, having those feels. And even then, better yet, they had the pleasure of coming over to LAN last season. We had the pleasure of just seeing them perform in person, which arguably, besides grand finals, they gave us the best series of the day. I mean, that thing really went the distance. So, I mean, obviously, these guys really know how to bring it to almost anybody who comes between them. And they don't really kind of sleep on any teams, respectively. They see Academy, they completely remove that name from the equation. They see UCF, they see a good program, and they know they want to shut that thing down, and they just make sure to treat everybody with respect to these matchups, which leaves them to not let complacency ever really be a variable.
Shadows traveling.
Just Aiden will send out a dark cover to give the team some sort of leverage. Clear away stairs, sightline.
Where are you?
I'll be tossed over to make sure nobody's closer to drop. Top side has been cleared, and this will be a free plant opportunity now for Niner Esports. Back, holding up inside heaven. Not watching drop, though. Pichu takes control over the space, and now will use that kill to power up the Viper's pit. and lay it down unfurled upon the site. A site, disgustingly hard already to play into if you don't have the kits nor the weapons. UCF Academy have to do it now against the Viper's Pit. Everyone comes from the exact same angle. No one heading downstairs. Sif fires from deep within tree, swinging out of the Viper's Pit, takes down Asura. Frosty's forced to refrag, flashes deep into Spit, but can't go any further. Pichu holding within their own Viper's Pit, ensuring demise.
Last player standing.
And it's all over with the swing of C's. The last two no longer standing in a Niner Esports coveted 4th round win.
Yeah, and I mean, following up on that, seeing how things are going to go with the next one, not too much of a result we're probably going to be finding out of the likes of UCF Academy with an eco bike coming into way. I mean, while you do have that overdrive coming out from the likes of Neon, that could be something that really turns the tide, but I want to see whether or not they use it a little more proactively, reactively, use it for that retake, use it for a little bit more aggression towards that spawn and find that lap around that we're used to seeing Neon do so often, but it's still a lot that's really just kind of a big if here. Knowing that classic is being bought and the full armor off the back of it, that's more than likely going to be very proactive. Right off the get-go, see if you can find maybe a mound kill, get 1 or 2 results off the back of it, and see if your players who are kind of backing you up in that circumstance, whether it be the flashes, the stuns, something to maybe surmount to something here. But it's nothing but silence ringing out thus far, with 3 players stationed up, not even really playing towards that mound, not even looking to really close out that distance left to leave of where are Niner Esports going, because they know this is eco round. They know UCF have that Neon ultimate, and they don't know where it's going to be coming from. But, well, as I mentioned earlier, it's more than likely going to be coming from behind, as you already see that they are looking to station themselves around in a big flank, and Neon could be in the position of a lifetime. But positioning isn't really the best thing when you look over at the A side. A very, very big case of separation coming through here for the lights of the player inside tree and back spawn. Nobody's actually on the site, and that's going to cause a lot of issues here. The spike is going down. Guns aren't really there to back them up. Like, guys can get a couple shots in. You're not really going to find any actual result. Because still, Pichu closing out another in a 3v5 situation. The ult's coming out. Ashura having now the ultimate into play doesn't have the help to play with.
4 players left for Niner Esports. They need to extend too far, but that advantage quickly starting to elude them.
Player standing.
Sora still with the Vandal. Comes in with the ultimate. Aiden has the cover. Sees is in a very tight angle, could not run away. Has no utility to step up through drop. The Niner Esports, a bit of a tumultuous round, all things considered. The weapons that were brought forward for UCF Academy, but it still cost them quite a bit. And Asura getting those frags doesn't matter much when they already had to use their ult, and those ult bibs don't tally up past it. Well, it's still in its full use. Round 7 now about to go underway in Dallas. I'd start to maybe expect Niner Esports to put a little bit more pressure off to B. It's been mostly a C and A fold, and I'd say most of the time it's A. Start to see them start to apply pressure elsewhere.
I mean, they're always getting an idea. They're always exploring the options. They're never leaving any kind of site unchecked, but they do want to know that, well, if a site works and nothing's really been figured out for it, why not just keep on really putting that thing down? Already, this is what we're seeing, a possible result coming away for the likes of UCF Academy with 2 picks coming out for bag, because we saw that spot from the C side over to the A side 2 rounds ago. Now actually finding a result and getting a couple kills to work with. So I'm happy to see that they're kind of getting themselves on the board, not really having to get too overzealous and invest in these ultimates. I mean, probably save them for retakes more than anything else, because of that Neon is really the only one you can use proactively. Everything else is just a massive AoE, which they kind of want to just play for the defense because they don't want to give up too much early.
Last player standing.
It's an onslaught on site. Just nothing UCF Academy had to worry too much about. Niner Esports putting the pressure off to A, losing that soft arm, rotating to C, having mound for sure. But the silence of contention, the silence of pressure from UCF Academy, they try to extend into sight, and we see that problem that KJ can tend to be. You worry about the nanoswarm, you worry about the alarm bots, you worry about everything there. And you try to go fast to get through it, and you're just slowly, one by one, walk into the loving arms of the defending players holding down the angle. Sora getting 2 in that round. Beautiful. Set things up. And a lockdown maybe in play for this round as well, as it was teased in the hands here of Niner Esports. This wouldn't be the place to place it. You want to get it closer to the door to swing them away from sight. But it's everyone on UCF Academy in the B side downs.
I mean, ready for a rotation if need be, and I mean, if you call for it, but as it stands so far, I mean, it's not even really necessary. Already Peachy able to go ahead and close at least one of those kills and finding a bit of a rotation, but even then, knowing that that B site, every single one of those players were allocated there, that they decided to completely culminate onto that site, it's a bit awkward to say the least, but I mean, Niner Esports have done a great job of reading that. They understood that, I mean, everybody was at least close, and they were close enough to at least make the answer. They backed up, and while you had a singular player kind of holding down that spot area of B, you were just bringing the fight to them. You're creating those distractions. You're giving them time for rotation to come out, and here they are, already on A side. It feels like seconds afterwards, not even double-digit seconds, just to get over the other side of the map, find that plan to go down, have that spike taken off, and really just force the hands of UCF Academy to say, look, it's a space you got to take. And with one of the ultimate
One enemy remaining.
Turn out into
Last
one,
player
it
standing.
all results into a 1v1 situation where you got Ziff and that lockdown coming underway, creating more time. But
Do it, Ghost.
yeah, I mean, only 28 HP on the name, though, so Lord knows if they can really make that happen, because it's going to be a singular tap.
Well, most of the util that's now been placed down has been cleared. Ghost does not have enough to stick into the nanoswarm in the last few seconds. They will get the kill to Sif, but perfectly timed from Sif to make sure that nanoswarm goes off, and Ghost, not much you can do about it when there's so much that KJ utility put in place. And you look like you saved most of yours for an opposing side, considering that UCF Academy opted to start the majority of that round with every single player on B. It's your sites to defend. Place your utility and have it ready. There's that old meme that came out not too long ago. It was like the feeling of being a Cypher or KJ player on side, and they hit the other objective, and you have to look back at your utility with a sad face. Sometimes you have to deal with that sadness and get that down in case they lap back and rotate, which Niner Esports have been prone to do already 3 times in this game.
I'm out of here.
I mean, Niner Esports have just been doing a great job of just keeping the pressure down, really just nailing this thing in, really just keeping that just over and over again, keeping the hits in their face, but better yet, keeping them close enough where they actually have control of the situation, where they can take control of these rounds, where they can get those picks, where they can make sure that, well, UCF's retakes just feel a little bit awkward. And even then, it all comes down to the order of how they actually go through that process for these retakes. It depends on really the first blood. Obviously, that's always important no matter where you go. But seeing how they do it, seeing what kind of angles they're taking, and even more so, what angles UCF is putting themselves into, like right there, everybody tucked away in secret. That's not really the best position, but 3 players are sticking themselves there. They're looking to get that pressure down, and even then, finally, a panic ult comes out from the Rolling Thunder.
Last
Say,
player
"Get
standing.
off me for a second."
Spike
And well,
down,
it's
C.
enough to do just that as UCF find themselves getting themselves into a 4v1
Yeah, for
scenario.
sure.
C
My
still
ult is
alive, able to go ahead and close up one of these
find
players.
you.
3 more alive,
Using
full
sentry.
HP to the name, an ultimate, and a C's to work with as well. So it's a bit questionable of a scenario, but despite being in enemy territory, it's just a rescue mission, and you know where everyone could technically
30
be.
seconds
So
left.
a Nightfall, while it feels like it'd be a little ballsy, it could be done.
You know you're trapped on site. Spike in no man's land. See the laser beams of death ready for him at a moment's notice on the swing. Even if they were to use the Nightfall,
is for
the
amateurs.
Prowler would
Let's
be
go.
shot out. There's 3 players to quickly take shots against it.
That's what it will be for us, Decay. Just
True.
break through walls of point.
Yeah, I think the wall's mostly sprayable through waterfall, right? Though only with an Odin. That's the other thing with this map.
Corners, though, if
So
you're jiggle
much.
peeking.
So much of this map is wall bangable, and a lot of teams highlight that and use the Odin quite often. Maybe the Ares, with its buff, could start to see a little bit more play. I don't expect that to step into any collegiate space with value. We saw it a little bit yesterday. I don't expect the Ares to step in with any value for at least another month. But it's something teams could start to look towards. It's a From the Shadows is being teased by Ada. And A-Side take in general is being teased.
I mean, he's always been good for him, so long as nobody really meets them. I mean, they
There.
found a lot of situations where somebody meets them
There.
kind of right there towards that wall or over here towards this rotating door, tucked away in that cubby where you can maybe find 1 or 2 players just kind of hiding themselves away. But
No charges
with
left.
nobody meeting them just yet, this is a different approach from now from UCF Academy, which I think I may like. I mean, considering they've been winning a couple rounds here in the last, just a couple that have occurred, I'm hoping that this creates a newfound kind of understanding of how this matchup goes. And, well, I mean, less, analytically, in terms of the actual shot, Sir's doing much better than what we've seen.
Aiden's on site, needs to hold this very directly. He lights
my
up for
God.
2. And UCF Academy with a player advantage, throw it out the window. Now it's up to back. Can they force Niner Esports to do the exact same thing? They can't. Aiden surviving for a moment longer. A Sif saves their life on the execute out of that smoke. Niner Esports hold on barely for their 7th round win. Now have everything in their back pocket for this one. 3 ults of Viper's Pit again. You'd assume this goes on B or A. Seas has that Nightfall. We highlighted its importance or possibility previously. It's still available. And Sif is 1 pip away. An ult orb off to Mound, which I assume they'll fight for here to get the lockdown as well. Niner Esports have a lot in the last 2 rounds upcoming.
Even then, I mean, they could just use that as time denial more than anything else. I mean, seeing the amount of pressure they've been putting in and how successful they begin getting those plants down even in the first place, the actual plant isn't a problem for them. They've done that successfully, it feels like, every single round. So that's just going to be more so as a sense of denial. And you don't even need to rely on that. If you had the Viper's Pit for that on a round like this, you just go ahead and throw that thing down, and it's going to go ahead and cause all the time in the world and force another KJ lockdown on the defensive side if they really want to get things done here. An eco round, that still probably just isn't going to happen. Niner Esports has resources to burn. And even then, they can burn it because there's no real trade-off here. There's no problem. We're nearing the end of this half. They say, we got the time, we got the place, we got the buttons available to us. But right now, they got the players. So honestly, they didn't have to do anything at all.
Yeah, let Pichu go on an island. Let them be the player to strike A first. They take full claim to control all the way up 2 stairs. They get into sight. They find value immediately. Basura, who was able to take down the Raze that was rotating for Niner Esports, the last player in that train on their rotate to A site. It gives them a Vandal, but maybe could have been an option to hand it to somebody else. Pichu was hesitating to use utility. A snake fight off the tree. It won't matter. I mentioned Sif needed an ult orb to get that lockdown. They didn't need it whatsoever. 4 kills.
Last round.
If they didn't have it or weren't close, they sure as heck would be by now. So we step into the last round of this half.
Fellas, it's a bit of an awkward situation, but in those scenarios, if you do have a point where you can flank behind 2 players, always go for the further one first. Make sure you can get that one headshot, especially if your teammates are there giving a bit of info, letting you know that the one closer, it's only going to be 1 tap to the body anyway, so you don't really have to land the headshot to go ahead and close out that kill. Speaking of kills, I'm hoping to see possibly a couple of these come underway with this operator now coming on the field. I mean, I love seeing the duelist with the operator. I mean, it makes sense with Jet the most. Whenever you get it on a Neon, it's always fun to see because obviously these Neons always feel so aggressive. They always like getting in the players' faces, and they always love just peeking. And right there, you see that being the exact thing that creates Sura's downfall.
Face your fear!
There's the Nightfall. Sent into sight. Nobody directly on side, so nobody will be pipped by this whatsoever. UCF Academy have already lost 1. Need to quickly frag it back, and Frosty's is good for it. Down goes Ruda. Sees joining them in the afterlife. Sif finally able to stop the hemorrhaging that comes from defender spawn. They'll use that lockdown. It's ult territory for use it or lose it. The Viper spin lockdown combo. UCF Academy may be waving their chances goodbye. They'll have to counter this perfectly, and their own lockdown is a great way to do so. Hide within the Viper's pit, and you may be able to keep it up and running, but they opt to not do so. They'll fall back. Will they make it in time? Pichu can't. They'll be stuck behind Mound as Aiden wants to step directly into sight using the From the Shadows, hoping to deny fast as possible. It will not matter. It's up to
Oh my God!
Kills, not planted up on walk, though. Back and just dip their head down below and dip within the smoke. It's a defuse. No snake bite, no utility for counter. You have to plant that on ledge. But Niner Esports failed to hold on despite the oddity from Sif for the 3. No 4K in the round back to back. It's UCS for the winning.
I mean, just barely squeaking that thing out, but I mean, you're completely okay with that. It's to the point where you're in a 1vx situation. I mean, honestly, for the side of Niners, I'm surprised. Like I said, they give respect to every single opponent they see, but that was the exact thing that kind of abstained them from even getting onto that site and wanting to take that fight. They don't want to give things up for free. They don't want to be in that exact situation we saw after the defuse went off. But I mean, there's got to be a point where you just have to go for it. You need to at least throw 1 player into the fray, make sure they are off that spike guaranteed, and then just let the rest of the players do what they were doing. Put them right back in that scenario, make sure they kind of have to get back down and tie it, tap again and again and again.
I'm out of here.
I mean, it's just unreal to see the Niner Esports let that one slide past them, but great for UCF Academy to make sure they get themselves a 4th round on the board and not put this thing in a 9-3, making this game feel that much more doable.
He's the only player now sticking inside tree. So lineup's coming forward. They shove their nose into a direct pixel. Pots cleared instantaneously. That will tell the defense on Niner Esports there are players still inside A main. The question is going to be, where are they going to try to step to next? Bag try to go directly through B main. Does go down. Toxic screen maybe in play to deny the extra option going forward, but it doesn't really bring a whole lot of impact once they start to extend and unfurl out through switch.
Spike planted.
Sees. Oh, the player has to be close. Prowler
One
tries to
enemy
get some
remaining.
distance, but it won't give enough for Apollo, and Ruta makes them rue the day. Niner Esports will get the pistol round of the second half. Maybe looking to repeat the pistol and bonus afterwards they got in the first, and it'll be 9-4 with a very possible 10th in double digits on the horizon.
Yeah, coming away pretty quickly here. I mean, Niner understand that situation, what players run side, where they're going to be sitting, and even more so getting that early kill and having that ghost, and knowing that the other player that was last remaining, being Frost, couldn't really, you know, actually find that kill. Couldn't do much in that situation with the health pool allocated. So, I mean, a good stance here for Niner Esports. I mean, obviously after winning the, you know, the rounds proceeding up to that last round, losing the last round, which is kind of unfortunate for them, because obviously they'd be looking at double digits here already. And when you can go ahead and bypass and completely just circumnavigate that entire checkpoint we see out of teams more times than not, I mean, that makes the game feel so much easier. Where you're sitting at a guarantor 11, you just need to squeak one more out, then you're looking at match point. But I mean, you still got that hill to climb. I mean, it's still there in front of you, and even then, you got a 5-round difference between you and UCF. It just comes down to whether or not you can make sure this round feels pretty clean, carry over some big guns into the next, and maybe just shut that thing down so the economy doesn't look amazing.
If I may ask a stupid question, Sam. We didn't see this toxic screen come out from UCF Academy on the defense. Son of a Viper. Why would I think that? I love that toxic screen for Niner Esports on this defense. It cuts down the B approach spectacularly. It makes it a whole lot harder to extend into A site through main. This defense already is finding a lot of value off the back of that. They will get refragged. Ruta goes down. Pichu, though, with a Bulldog. Player in the backside. It's Ghost and a shot to the head of Pichu. Miraculous. One more. Not going to happen. It's Aiden with a stinger. The SMG coming out victorious. And they could really argue about who gets this defuse, but hand it to Sif, give it them their third, and get that lockdown charged up. Because there's three perfect rounds ahead of you to send you out of this map. Try to make it the best chances possible with your 18-10 player to feed them that rock, feed them that ult even faster.
And your two Guardians being carried over as well. I mean, considering that you did have a Bulldog there to work with too, and I mean, ideally you want 3 players, you want the majority of your squad kind of sitting at the end of the round, but it's just how the cookie crumbles. But all things considered, I mean, UCF making sure to slow this thing down, understand that this round is do or die. I mean, we don't see 3-0s between these kind of upper tier teams very often, and I doubt we're going to see it here. But honestly, if we're looking at a timeout when the team should have themselves a definitive advantage in guns, utility, entire kits, it's a little bit shaky, honestly. I'd say you're kind of giving Niner Esports a little bit more of a leg up here because, I mean, it's already definitive that you have more to play with. You have the game playing. You have now all of the balls in your court to shoot. But really, Niner Esports, you're giving them all the time in the world to just understand what may come next. Let them say, okay, well, what do we have to work with? What are we really setting up for? I mean, we're sitting at only 3 rounds remaining. They are looking at a wholesome 8. So, I mean, long term, what can you really do? They have less. They have the same amount of time. They got a lot less to talk about. And even then, they just got to double down.
Maybe we'd like to see this timeout after one more loss. The moment Niner Esports get to 11, even if you're forced to eco the very next one, it at least gives it a way to slow down and stop Niner Esports from finding the sprees of rounds that they were really privy to in that first half. I mean, notice the first 2, you can kind of discount those. It's the pistol and the bonus, the 3, then back to 2 again. They feel like when they win one, it comes in pairs. And what a shot from Asura! Ruta, retire. That one's gonna hurt. It's gonna tickle for quite a few rounds.
Go, go, go.
That's Niner Esports, who are already at a gun disadvantage, now forced to, well, bite the bullet literally and figuratively. The loss of a player to make this now a 4 versus 5, which quickly falls to a 3 versus 5 with a double swing into 2 players through B main, and now Aiden losing their life on A site. It's a B site take, and it is a flawless result. The Sif doesn't have something to say about it, and they do.
Yeah, just got to see really what you can get here. I mean, Niner Esports obviously not in the best stance, considering that Sif is the only one alive with the Guardian in hand, but already going ahead and developing at least half of that ultimate. So, I mean, you know you're going to have that the next round. You know you're going to have this retake and play with later. But right now, you do not have the angle to be swinging on the side from. Like, you manage another one. Surprisingly, there's 2 more players there to make that trade get done. 3 players knocked down on the first 5 round coming out from UCF Academy. That's going to be big and very detrimental in the long course of things that you're seeing once again Niner Esports. It comes into lockdown being available. It comes down to how close they are to go ahead and bypass this entire chokehold checkpoint situation we're looking at. But I mean, it shouldn't be lasting that long realistically. This is one of the few teams I could really go ahead and give all the credit in the world to saying that. That's why I said earlier, I didn't even mention the chokehold because it never really ends up being too much of that for them.
It's that difference between a team that maybe has a little bit of precedent, they scrim a lot together, they play a lot together, and then there's the team that exists as a team. It feels like no matter what the score obstacles are, it never turns into too big of a problem. They can always make that big comeback. Right now, UCF Academy have a lot of a comeback ahead of them. 5 more rounds to even close the distance against Niner Esports. And not very many rounds worth of buffer to do so. Cannot let Niner Esports get 2-round wins here soon.
Found them.
Really close up to defend this. Great shots to take care of Ghost. And notice how Sif falls immediately back. Knows that their role is done. They no longer need to hold into sight. They can just wait for the team to rotate forward. Asura out of a smoke. There's not a lot of respect for UCF Academy and smokes in this game, Dallas, and it is turning into a problem child for them. Niner Esports getting a 3rd kill now. Ruda, everyone a piece of the pie that is UCF Academy. Sees the Prowler over towards Mound. Apollo with a spray. This is planted correctly,
standing.
but there's just no sight line due to the proper smoke placement that's been put down for UCF Academy. The Astral smoke's too tall. It doesn't matter. Niner Esports take it. They get 11, and now UCF Academy have no timeout to use, and an eco round ahead of them.
Like I said, I mean, really didn't even have to invest the ultimates in a round like that. Just straight business here for Niner Esports, and that's the credit I give to this team so often, where they just respect every team and they just play the game as it's intended to be played. And even, I mean, it just comes down to immaculate retakes. I mean, we haven't seen too much of the actual defense, considering we're only looking at 4 rounds, and we're not going to see much more, which is kind of not only disappointing for us and seeing how well they performed, but for other teams inside the league who are saying, goodness gracious. If there's anybody to take notes off of the squad right here, because, I mean, they're not professional. Oh my God!
Asura,
Gotta go.
I'm begging you.
A drive-by!
What is your aim lab score?
Yeah, even Ruda's like, I mean, shit.
Azura now with the ult out. And the Force may be with them, and that's a frag to their name as Bag joins in. The Stormtrooper here, they'll hit their shot. Azura can't keep Pichu away from the main flank inside A main. Not too far away is Sif looking to rejoin. Plenty of weapons were dropped on site, and UCF Academy will have collected those and started to utilize them. Sif will be the first to step forward. Pichu not too far behind. Viper Spit is in play. This could be a desperation effort to put this down and hold. There's not a close enough on the scoreline to really feel that desperation. Charge goes out. That's a stun. Sif stood no chance. 1 more to go. Pichu forced further back. Time is already an impossibility. But it just gets worse when Pichu's been tethered still. Line of 2, make it costly at least. And Apollo and Ghost will pay that price. Bag looking the other way. Pichu ducking and diving.
Oh, 1 more here to work with for UCF Academy. And I mean, honestly, that's all they really needed. I mean, clean opener. Cleanest I think I have literally ever seen in my 4 years of watching.
That's 2 rounds in a row.
Yeah, but that one was with the sheriff. So it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah. But I mean, that's another thing is the mental fortitude.
That's practice.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Niner Esports, obviously, anybody would tilt after that one. I mean, just understandably. There's no way. Either you're like, all right, you know what? Fair enough. You got me. I'm gone. Or it's like, oh my God. No way you actually train that for 4 hours unnecessarily. But, I mean, it is what it is. But seeing how things are playing out here so far, I mean, it worked out for UCF Academy. They found themselves another kind of fresh breath of air as they can get themselves not only another round, but possibly another A execution as they are pushing up, trying to take control of the tree. They're only up against a Stinger, but Steve can still make work with it.
It's that one pro who uses nothing but a stinger.
You want to find it?
It's gross.
Hello.
1 enemy remains.
Spike down. Showstopper
No
attempt.
way.
I got spiked.
And that's costly. He was not able to be sent. It's still used. Niner Esports have a player advantage here. Asura entry. They don't know. Can you swing it? They can't. Sif with the Sheriff saves it, and Niner Esports will get to 12.
Match point.
UCF Academy were only able to find 2 for 2 and even split in the half. At halftime, the score proving too much to overcome. They've got to play a perfect 6 in a row now, Dallas.
It was such a sketchy endeavor there. I mean, considering that they were both kind of roundabouting, trying to look on that site, see what's going to be managed there. I'm surprised they just don't kind of hold back. No spike isn't down. Wait for an audible to come off. Maybe hold an angle back. Because, I mean, obviously the door is going to open and they'll let you know if you're going to wrap back their tree. And besides that, you just watch stairs. just watch stairs from A main,
Careful
wait
here.
for something to come to you, and I mean, you have that 2v1 scenario rather than giving a chance of an isolated fight like we saw right there.
There.
Or even then, more importantly, just kind of a complete blindside. But already, some of these paper walls, what about the Odin that comes into
Spike
play
down
so
A.
often on this map,
This way.
it's only going to be able to result in one kill to start things off here for Niner Esports. But even then, it does get a bit of good damage onto that breach to make work of that. But Aiden still just making quick work of whoever else is left, saying that if breach is the only thing standing, then the guy's one shot. What's matter?
Heads up.
Zura cutting down Ruda. And Esports still at that player advantage. They know where Zura is. They
I'm outta here.
now will, but Sif did
Oh
not
my-
hear the call out in
Last
time.
player
And
standing.
can't hit the shot. 4 kills for Azura, keeping UCF Academy in this one. This has been the player we've been watching. It seems like they'll be for at least another round.
Last
Unless
player
PQ has something to
standing.
say about it. Down they go. 1v1,
Yep,
and it's not
one
gonna
bullet.
matter. Niner Esports, 13-6, your final tally on our first map of today. And UCF Academy will have to pray that map 2, that
Clutch.
bind, the only 2 objective map
Defenders
of the
win.
day, if we see all 3 maps, is different for them. Because a 13-6 Dallas, that's not pretty. That's not where you want to be in your first game of the day.
Even then, I don't know if it will be. I mean, this is the Niners pick, right? I mean, we saw Haven come underway, Niners going ahead and just absolutely giving us a showcase on that. But I mean, as a secondary map, which could be that primary pick for them, I mean, things are going to be a lot more difficult. It's going to be nothing but an uphill battle for them. Knowing that 3 site didn't work out too well when it comes around to Lotus, where you have more paper or mache walls, you have a lot more kind of gimmicks so you can play with on that map, all things considered. I think Haven, when it feels a lot more kind of just outright gunfights, making sure to line those things up and winning your ones, it just seems like when you had the leg up and you had the chance, I'm not going to say that UCF fumbled it, but I will say that they definitely have some work to improve in that department. And even then, Bind is going to be that much more treacherous and just making sure to hammer down that point into you because of how fast it is. And you may not even get a time really to react and kind of reflect on what exactly happened.
Yeah, there's going to have to be a lot of talking in this break for UCF Academy and Niner Esports. You can't lay off of the pedal despite the big lap of luxury and the big victory you managed to get here on map 1. Map 2 is still ahead of you, and if you fail to close things out, map 3 will step back in. And Haven, probably a lot more teams are well-versed and practiced on this one. You may not get away with such a huge scoreline. You're going to have to work your rear ends off to make sure it goes your way. But before then, we'll take that break. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Will this end 2-0, or will UCF Academy make the comeback that's needed to see a third? Well, Dallas, Lotus obviously did not pan out, but we get to see now the results of Bind, down from 3 objectives to a simple 2, but it's a dusty, treacherous landscape ahead of them, and this one tends to be where teams struggle if their duelists can't get out the gate, and we saw Azura heating up, so maybe it'll be different this time for UCF.
I mean, considering you're right. I mean, UCF, that's the whole thing. They're the ones that really have to start really stepping up here. Considering that, I mean, even then, Niner Esports, it was their Sentinel who was getting the most kills in that last map. So knowing they'll probably be swapping over into the Cypher now, I mean, they're going to have even more tools at their disposal. They're going to have a global impact, and knowing how fast Bind can be. I mean, just those small things are going to add up over the course of this match. You're really going to be ready for it. So, I mean, it really comes down to UCF and whether or not they can have their new kind of kit available to them, really just manipulate that fact, because I do believe it was UCF who was bringing the Astra in that last matchup. And I just didn't really feel the impact like I wanted to. I mean, your Astra is supposed to be kind of the cornerstone, supposed to be the foundation for your squad whenever you bring her into a map. And as much of a responsibility as that is, and as much of it sucks, that's typically why you see IGLs on that Astra, because they're saying you play the game around me, buddy. But whenever your duelist is a Neon and just going way too fast and just kind of pushing the pedal to the metal, I mean, sure was doing great. Don't get me wrong, but it just felt like they were all kind of on a different page and they were all moving at different speeds there.
Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning of the game, if Bag didn't step up the pace, so they didn't have the Astra play work out, they didn't lead that team, things were going to start to kind of fall apart. And that's, I would say, somewhat similar to what we saw. And while you can theoretically get away with playing Astra on the map of Vine, I don't think we're going to have to see that be an issue here whatsoever. Your expectation is going to be Brim. You're going to see a Gecko or a Sky. Viper can step up if you have a Sky. That's the only time I'm really huge in favor of a Viper pick. If you also have the Sky as your initiator, and they can typically hold down Octagon all by their lonesome. But C's wants to go right back over to the Fade they just brought back in our previous map. 2 initiators. Sif. I don't hate this. I just feel like they have a distinct lack of extra assistance for their duelists. Something like Arena is very possible.
I don't know about this one.
No Sentinel to really help out as much as you would like.
I don't mind that.
It yet,
I don't mind no Sentinel. It's not even Niners that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the composition that's already defined, already locked in, and I'm looking at the UCF. I mean, this is their time to shine. This is where they are
don't like the Astra.
Put back into a corner, really have to get things done. And as you mentioned, guys, going back to the Astra, Asura still being on a very, very quick-oriented duelist, but even then more so, I do like the fact that they're slowing things down a little bit. They want to focus on their defense a little more, considering how much and how well Niner Esports was kind of just exerting that pressure over and over and over again, kind of checking every avenue of the map. And now UCF Academy, they want to make sure to put all the emphasis on that, keeping their T's crossed, their I's dotted, making sure that everything that's kind of coming together inside this game, that they can keep note of. But the issue is when you run that double Sentinel, how aggressively are you going to be placing this utility? How early do you want that information? And does it invalidate it completely when you see that Niner Esports are so effective at getting their rotates in?
Time will have to tell if it's going to be as important as it seemingly was in our last map. I envision that it will be a tough road ahead of Bag like we had previously. I think UCF Academy will have a much easier job of this Sura, not on that Neon on the Rays. And I am fairly shocked still that the Viper is being joined by C's instead of something like a Sky. Very awkward indeed. The first round will get underway. UCF Academy will start off on the attack. The majority-wise, their pressure is split up for an A-sided take. That's going to be a tough Showers approach. If there's any intel, their players are there, and there is a haunt that just went off. TP can and will be taken by the 2 players off on B for Niner Esports. The mesh net goes out. Trying to keep them locked in play. Doesn't do enough justice just yet, and C's will get that first frag now for free with UCF Academy forced to fall back.
All right, already some very quick first blood coming out from Niner Esports, and even then they are keeping that pressure on. They know that everybody's over there towards that A site, but is everybody over towards the A site? Well, you have 4 out of 5, and you're trying to knock them down as fast as possible. You got a massive flank coming through, set up by Ghost inside that spawn, waiting for these rotates to come through. But even then, how many players are going to have their knife out? Because while you can run into Aiden, still has enough time to possibly get the gun out. The second member being Pichu barely had enough health to really take that fight. So equilibrium is now met. 3v3 situation with UCF still down in terms of health pools.
He's going to try to step up. It's a wraparound still from UCF Academy. They said, hey, B's kind of cool, but you know what's even better? Take an A from the flank. Follow trapped in Octagon. Couple 1-2 combos. It's only good for C's, but It does still slow down the approach for Niner Esports, who now had to take TP to get over the A side. And that audio cue should give enough information for UCF Academy on this defense. So recollect. Send out the wingman. Nobody inside Cubby. That's at least a good lineup for it, but Ghost has the first shot. And Bag has the second. Wonderfully played first round for UCF Academy.
I mean, that spike had just gone down, and you have a Gecko compared to what we're looking at from UCF Academy, where they're working with just an Asher and a Cypher. I mean, by all means, you have the advantage, lane and central. I mean, you just can busy every single corner, wingman every single corner. Just take your time with it. And at the end of the round, just cover your wingman for that defuse as that thing's going off. But still, I mean, already seeing what UCF did there. I mean, they just completely discombobulated what Niner Esports was doing. Had random players stacked in just the most awkward places on the map that you would never see players typically sitting, and they were just able to use that just perfectly. And they're just trying to go ahead and manipulate the fact that you mentioned earlier, not having a sentinel inside of Niner Esports. They can't really check anything in terms of information preemptively. They have to react to everything. And while they've done that pretty well, and it's going to work out for the attacking side for them,
Catch them.
considering the double sentinel.
No charges.
As it stands for round number one, it just didn't work out for them.
Go get him.
Rumble will go forward as Zura will at least guarantee there's one player hiding inside of smoke. And a great paint shell as well, but that haunt gives intel for Azura, and Azura is in a very rough spot. Thankfully, the assistance is perfect. Frosties and Ghost holding the direct angles necessary.
One enemy remaining.
As Pichu makes a lot of noise on a TP, and Civ tries to step in off of that slight distraction off site. It's a UCF Academy round win again, and this one flawless. They're not dropping a weapon. They forced up in round two, meaning these buys for Niner Esports will be hard-pressed for any full armor alongside their util. It's soft for 4. And even a Guardian for C's is the only one who does have full armor. And they're going to face essentially the same level of buy and quality from UCF Academy here.
Flawless on the attacking side when you see what you're dealing
That's
with, and knowing that even then, I mean, because that's the extra money off the spike as well. I mean, that's just a cherry on top. That's extra stuff to work with. And knowing that even then, Niner Esports still, as you mentioned, forcing out a little bit in that last round, they're not working with everything. But it's okay. When you get a player like Ruda already going ahead, pushing up, finding 2 players off the get-go, you know, the confidence is still there. The skill is really all it comes down to. And, well, it seems to be a little bit more allocated towards that shower as it stands.
He's trying to make sure there's no players there, make a lot of noise in the process. They've already dealt with a couple. Just a matter of ensuring that any more have to go elsewhere. Spike is lagging a little bit behind the 2 players deep within short. Zura was initially up on stack, forced to fall back, already down to 26 HP. A single paint shell would be disastrous here as Ruda steps on truck and Ghost.
Grenade!
Alongside Bag, taking down the duelist up front. Ghost is flashed. Great timing for Siege, but unfortunately just not going up forward. Hit your shots, Aiden!
Spike
Costing them their
down.
life. As it looked like Wingman gets the kill, but it's Sip to finish the job. Gecko still participating nonetheless in Niner Esports. Taking round 3. And a lot closer of an affair than you'd expect with UCF Academy still having the weapons from round 2.
I mean, they're still going to have the money for round number 4 as well. I mean, seeing what they've dealt with in that second round, I mean, they had so much to work with that it wasn't even a stressor for them. But even then, when you get 2 initial picks coming out from Ruda, I mean, past that point, you're literally in the 3v5, and there's just not much you can realistically do because you've lost just 2 critical players. And even then, I mean, just off the back of one singular individual putting in that effort, find themselves with a massive gap in your approach. So guns all stacked up for everybody here. Niner Esports still not having the best buys in the world. You got a couple players on some awkward situations. I mean, still, that hasn't stopped them before. So you get to treat this round with a lot of caution.
First blood finally goes forward. It's back. Up through Hookah. They left Spike behind. Team wants to make sure they're all on the same page of the playbook before they actually engage. This will make it easier for Niner Esports, though, and much less of a guessing game. They'll just split this still 2-2. Losing out on that Viper is going to spell pretty tough. Having a lack, that extra smoke and the snake bias to send out.
I know exactly where you are.
Astral Smoke will go down, cutting off Elbow. Neural Theft goes into play as well, and that's big for UCF Academy. Now guaranteeing 100% the location of the player stepping in for Niner Esports in the rotate in, but it will not keep Aiden away from sight.
One enemy.
Oh my God!
4-4. A hatless Cypher that is Ghost falls to the ground, much like their Brim, and it's 2-2 now for Niner Esports.
Just like we
Huge
practiced.
sense there from Aiden, just making sure that site just not get tainted in the slightest. I mean, in the 2-2 now on the scoreboard, I mean, it feels like Niner Esports have had themselves a past 4. But I mean, UCF Academy now on an eco buy. You're going to see one more probably going in the direction of this defense to get things going. And I mean, worst comes to worst, a Thresh to just go ahead and throw out there because I mean, really, why not? That thing's going to come up pretty often. But as it stands right now,
Steady.
money, while it was looking very much in the favor of UCF Academy, 2 back-to-back buys isn't enough to create enough of a detriment for them to kind of take advantage of.
You're stepping in with only Sheriffs. What is there still to do? What can you possibly do to close that space? You have the Raze, you have the boost packs. Do not place any smokes just yet, and Niner Esports are playing this wonderfully. They're not sitting in your defaults. They're not sitting over towards Lamp. They want to pop off towards Showers, try to get a couple frags,
Like
having
butter,
everyone
baby.
stepping within
My
the
ult's ready.
Brim
Spike
stem.
down A.
They did have a wonderful shot by back to guarantee the
Last
first blood.
player
Since then, it has
standing.
been nothing but Niner Esports, and with C's even joining in with a pistol.
Get aced.
That's Ghost. Singularity Vandal. Alice already biting at his fingernails, waiting to pull out the wallet later, but Ghost needs to make sure they can get out of this round or try to make it a little bit more costly. Great Prowler and a great shot from Sif. And even a flank from Peach here. Their time was going to be short as Niner Esports get their third.
I mean, outstanding efforts there, at least to go ahead and kind of make something out of that round. But I mean, we're just seeing Niner Esports going ahead and able to culminate more and more and more just pieces of the puzzle to just throw out the wall just when things really start to get bad. I mean, we have 3 out of the 5 ultimates now. I mean, the last 2 remaining on that last tick where on the defense, I mean, they're not even really concerned about finding the kills when you know that so many players can set those up essentially for free. The orbital barrage, go ahead and shut down possibly a spike going off, the Thrash to go ahead and retake this site on multiple occasions if need be. And even then, better yet, the showstopper to find yourself possibly that free kill. But if we're talking about free kills, I mean, nothing feels more free than an operator besides below that 4,700 price tag.
It has a nice sight line to work with and the possibility to escape using TP, but they take the more dangerous approach. Boost packs to get away, and while they did initially,
I re-swing that.
the damage was too much, and I guess the greed was too much as well. Pays off. So nothing.
Spike
C is
down
forced
B.
to refrag. Great for Niner Esports if a player like C is always there. Very consistent on map 1 and looking to do the exact same thing here. 2 before falling. That's an even spot delay within.
I've got your
But also
trail.
losing Sif towards elbow spells, or sorry, towards back of sight. Does not spell well
Spike
for them.
planted.
It's a 3 versus 2.
Wait for Beacon on site. Wait for anything to really happen here. Obviously, when we wait for the sky smoke to deter a little bit before you make an approach, the Viper's pick coming out is going to be very,
One
very
enemy
preemptive to
remaining.
really get things going here. I mean, that's the only thing you got to work with right now. It's, well, while it's a 1vx, still beats you with the Viper's pit. Hoping that can kind of be enough of an ally in this process, but just not really going to do anything. So, thankfully, I mean, the silver lining for Niner Esports is knowing that while you did have all your ultimates, you at least invested in one of them. It wasn't the one you're really too concerned with too much. I mean, you got plenty of retake utility, and nobody else kind of panic pressed, so you still got a lot to work with. But good for UCF Academy to keep things kind of as equal as possible as they go ahead and accumulate their own resources in hand.
Yes, there's a lot of value for both sides in this somewhat back and forth game. Obviously, finally, we see UCF Academy getting a round win after 3 in a row for Niner Esports, but they were still making those rounds costly. They were still, punishing different
Scout
styles of
destroyed.
approach. We
Here.
saw them stick all 5 down through short in an eco round. We saw them play heavy showers 3 rounds prior. There's been a huge amount of variation for UCF Academy, and they're starting to find what's working, what's not working, and maybe some of those defaults for Niner Esports. And that's going to be the important thing is off towards Hookah. They finally put no one there early. They left Ghost out inside mid. Unfortunately, Ghost can't outdo the Viper on Niner Esports, and they'll pay the price in the process, forcing the team to need to find an even frag elsewhere. That'll be deeper than Showers.
Yeah, just seeing really how they're going to be maneuvering around this entire site. It's going to be awkward. I mean, considering that Root is right back on that operator, I'm not really sure how I felt about it after that first
why'd
run
you
not
find
working
it?
out. Now you invest 4,700 all over again. It
Caution
just
here.
doesn't work out one more time. It has to be a learning lesson. I mean, do you take
Now
that
we're
4,700 hit one more time to say maybe 3rd time's a charm, or do you just go ahead and completely alleviate that risk and just waste too much of an actual financial investment as well?
No Gecko means they don't drop it. From Wingman sticking that plant, UCF Academy would be
30
happy with the
seconds
Brim.
left.
Uses the orbital strike. They've used a lot of their own ultimates in the process here. The Cosmic Divide dissipates. Aiden will have a free
Last
chance for a
player
1v1,
standing.
but Apollo gets the
Gun
upper
here.
hand. Now it'll be a forced rotate for Niner Esports, the last player left standing. And it looks like
Spike
UCF
planted.
Academy will have to plant this in a non-linear location. Back of sight, still within cover of heaven. Even a deadlock wall to make matters worse. The only approach you have is on Shower's side or off towards lamp, and Apollo had Showers and sends you to the cleaners right afterwards. UCF Academy back in the lead finally with a 4-3 split.
Yeah, big sense coming out here. I mean, for them, able to go ahead and get themselves the first lead that we've seen. I mean, the first legitimate lead, obviously, considering that the pistol rounds. I want to count those, but when the full rifles come into play, the game completely changes up. And even especially when you got a lot more investment of the ultimates, the utility, I mean, the game totally changes. So now that we actually see UCF Academy, while it's only, one round, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You still have something to play with. You still know that you're managing a lead to some extent. And so long as you kind of go for those one-for-one trades, knowing that even right now, Niner Esports buy isn't the greatest in the world, you can find a chance to double down.
UCF Academy will send a pretty interesting split. Once again, leaving their Cypher alone. Had them off towards Hookah initially, but they're going to leave them on short A instead. No information off the Showers. There's a desperate attempt for Ashura. Drop out for Pichu. That's a bit aggressive from Pichu. Just needs to stay within Hookah for the time being, but this is a costly endeavor. One more for Ghost off to A. Rotating easily with TP.
Spike
And now
planted.
C's has to try to step up through Hookah, dangerous territory that's now been claimed with the utility that Cypher can fully play. Aiden with a
Last
stinger,
player
brings him down,
standing.
not gonna matter. Ghost with the frack, one for C's. It's at least collected a Guardian to work with. The bag has started to pay attention to Octagon. The call-up may have been made, and the shot misses. And that's the audio cue now guaranteed, as a star will go down and a smoke will go up and play. What can C's do? Do they opt to save what they have, or do they play for an exit frag? They'll wait out the Tasmanian Tiger. Once they extend, it's the Astra bag. Too close for comfort, and a single easy kill needed to put USC to 5.
Good looks there. I mean, able to double down, able to actually execute that round in a round where it's expected from them. They don't let anything kind of just go ahead and catch them off guard. And that's what I'm hoping for UCF. A little bit of a wake up, a little bit of more stability, a little just more kind of understanding what's being given to them and just kind of slowing things down and just comprehending the situation at hand. And they've done exactly that. Not really freaking out too much, especially on the attacking side. I mean, knowing that defense is going to feel just as slow to them, knowing they're going to have a lot of time to really just kind of culminate plans and get all this information with that double sentinel setup where they're not going to be too stressed on that half of the map. They're already in a very good chance. Worst case scenario, they lose every single round after this. They're looking at a 7-5, and they're still not really going to be on the back end because this is technically their weaker side because they're only relying on their Sky and their race to really get the job done.
That deadlock wall's exceptionally strong, though, on the defense, so I could maybe argue that UCF Academy have this kind of unknown piece of the puzzle that they're looking to bring into that defensive side. But will that truly matter against a wingman where they can place it truly anywhere? They can stay safer, have that sixth player on the field, as we like to talk about wingmen so often for Gecko mains. It's hard pressed to say, but that at least off to the A side can take and get rid of the entire approach to Showers. Same thing, can clear out all of Hookah, can make it so they can't escape out of Octagon. You're essentially limiting and time wasting that attacking side so effectively and so easily. And I think UCF Academy may have put too many eggs in the basket of that deadlock player to really say for sure. We'll know once this half ends in just 4 more rounds. Niner Esports, though, on the defense, looking aggressive off towards Hookah. With 2 towards Showers, they'll move Ruda over to the opposing corner, but this Tasmanian Tiger will scream out to me, you gotta get out of there as the deadlock pull doesn't work, just missing Ruda, wow!
An outstanding effort there from at least UCF in trying to, see what they could have done there, but knowing the Niner Esports just a little bit quicker to the cut and making sure to manage to get out of dodge as fast as they can. They've done good jobs maneuvering at least around this situation to even then squeak out that first blood, so their entire movement, their understanding of this map and the state of it right now. They know how they have control of the spawns as well, which is insane to say considering that you have 2 Sentinels and these spawns are not being watched by utility, but right now they are being watched by players, actual faces, sight lines, and well, eventually you understand that at least one is behind. Nobody's taking into factor that Gecko that's pushed up through B main, but A is still for the takes. It's a 3v4 on this side. It's a starts to at least kind of be hit on, but the execution is not there. As once again, Ruda closing out another one. I understand the Sir is going to possibly be there. That somebody can still be in showers, but you're worried about
30 seconds left.
Aiden's got that
Spike
covered.
down A.
It's one singular player standing, and well, no, neither one of these races can really find the shot, but eventually Rudy can manage to get ahead.
Listen, sir, I know you had a lot of drive-by shots in map 1, but that doesn't mean you can run and gun for the entirety of map 2 as well. Either way, Niner Esports will at least get one round closer to possibly etching into an even half. 4 versus 5 the total score. Niner Esports a lot better looking on the defense. I don't like Ruda's positioning, so to say, so consistently on that A site when they're the players stacking up there. They go to back cubby where there's that new barrel you can stand on top of to get a sideline to short. Yes, that's easy early intel, but you can find the same impact if you go up to heaven instead. And you can still use utility there if you're something like a Brim, where you can place those smokes from nearly anywhere.
Spike down.
Maybe they'll change up team for Niner Esports, but this hookah play is panning out quite well. UCSF Academy sends everyone through, losing 2 in the process, and with TP now taking Ruda, make sure there's a third no longer left standing.
I mean, already in a 3v2 situation, I mean, you're looking at Ghost just kind of holding things down inside this hookah area of the map. I mean, the show's stuck underway. That's going to be enough damage to go ahead and finish the job. In a 2v1 situation now, converted from that 3v2. I mean, it's now in a scenario where UCF, Frosties, is really just stuck in a bad spot. Trailblazer in hand. Heals aren't going to do anything here, but you want to at least check some corners, understand that, all right, left clear, right clear. Dog's gone, and guess what? You're going to push right back up, saying, all right, it's not clear. But I don't know whether or not they're going to understand that. How clear they're going to swing these corners? Well, as slow as humanly possible because you were being so cautious that you kind of throw your confidence out of the wind. So Niner Esports managed to get themselves a 5th round. They are bringing this thing back. When we talk about that 2-round advantage that UCF Academy had, I said if they lose every single round past that point, when that timeout occurred, that they would still be in a good spot. But I didn't actually think that would be possible because I was hoping they'd at least manage one more.
Sometimes you say things, saying, hey, this is the possibility of the future. You didn't want it to occur. You didn't expect it to occur. Sometimes when it comes true, it's a little bit annoying. Not a good spot to be staying in. Brutal will swing early here. Shot to the head of Azura was there, but crosshair placement was not perfect enough, and Azura's got the perfect sightline level for the counter. They'll send out the tether. Tasmanian Tiger will be cleared. Seas needs to quickly vacate that cubby side towards bench. Niner Esports with that player disadvantage know they need to try to climb that back as soon as possible, especially as they don't know exactly what is in play yet from UCF Academy. That's a secondary infield given for a shot off to the Prowler through showers. You expect it's still an A take, and with Spike still over there, that very well may still be the case, unless Ghost hunts for an entry or an exit off here towards B.
Over there.
About Nightfall. This is a smart play for Niner Esports. A lot of decay being used. Asura closes the gap to get in towards C's. Frosties takes out, removes Aiden from the equation. And now Pichu has no secondary assistance. Bar for the get-go of Ziff trapped inside a lamp. Pichu off drop. Shots to the range.
Oh my god.
Lonesome. Do they know that Cypher of Ghost is
doesn't matter. Way too long.
Stick it. There's no reason not to. It's a 6th round for Niner Esports in the come up.
I mean, that's a huge questionable variable whenever you kind of get to those situations where it works out perfectly if you force a rotation through like we saw in round 1. Or even then if you get the timing correctly, but at that point you're saying, is that Cypher's fault? Is that the rest of the team's fault? It's majority vote, brother. You were too slow to the cut there. You have to lap that map. If you're going to, in order to do that, you have to do it effectively. You have to get that timing. You have to shut down the player that was heaven before they even found that kill onto your raid. I mean, it's just those points where lurking is an art. I mean, it's as annoying as it is to go up against. I mean, there is skill that takes place when actually going through the process. And even then, Ruda, I swear to God, I see an operator in these hands one more time.
Drop the op. It's not yours, buddy. It's just theirs. It's theirs very shortly. Every time you've purchased it, it's just a quick dividend to UCF Academy. Stop loading it. Here's that lurking art. Call-out's been made. Bag missing Pichu for just a moment. They have no intel that players are inside of hookah. That's going to be an attempted pull. Whirlpool, no stun. That's going to give Ghost a chance to step forward. Great play. This is what we needed from Bag on map 1. And we're starting to see glimpses of it here on map 2. Bag has no fear off towards Octagon. A quick direct swing from Frosties, and that's one for Azura! gets two before falling. Niner Esports, despite the loss of control early with your player and Cubby falling, they're back to a player advantage. Hoping for a 7-5 split. The orbital strike goes down, and it will be dealt with. 8 into Apollo, front back by Bag, a 2v1. Bag knows this one, and Hookah wears Ruda to an elbow, and that's the shot of a life. One more. Seize has been good, but is it good enough? Yes! Bag can't get them before they steady, and Seize punishes them for it. 7-5 for Niner.
Lamborghini, $1 million. I'm seeing what else I can speak into existence. Just give it a little bit of a trial. It'll take time. It'll take time. Trust, it'll come.
Switching sides.
It's unfortunate to see. I mean, UCF Academy, I was hoping for them to kind of really start turning things up, kind of manage that lead, and really just kind of go and go and go and kind of keep the pedal on the metal for that. But I mean, it's just they couldn't sustain it. When they had that lead, they just didn't really understand what Niner Esports was presenting. It was only 3 rounds that they'd really seen any kind of spark success, and 2 of which those rounds was, I'll still say it, Ruda buying an operator was kind of an easy first pick coming out there. While Ruda obviously isn't doing too hot, I think still you need to be warming things up and making sure those Vandals and Phantoms are looking a lot hotter, considering that you're going to be flipping over to the attacking side, and that's where we get to see your showcase, because you had to break through not only some players' faces, but better yet, all the Sentinel util that's going to be coming into play here, which now that we can see the mini-map and see what these setups look like, all of which is being put on this B side.
You stack so heavily. God, that's a lot of util on me. When you stack so heavily for a pistol round, you better hope they're going there. You know how unfortunate it'd be for UCF Academy for it to be an A take and absolutely none of that util be put in play. May not matter though. UCF Academy's defense is holding on. It's been a little bit more effective. Wingman will stick to Spike. Niner Esports have control over site for the most part.
Last player
the play in through Hookah and defender spawn turns that into a nothing burger, and UCF Academy forces down the throats of Niner Esports. 7-6 will be your scoreline as they get the pistol. And that 4-round spree does not turn into 5 for Niner Esports.
Great work here from a pistol round. I mean, we saw them win the first pistol round, following up with in the second. I mean, it's just good looking from them. And I mean, you need that early lead. You have to sustain that. And even then, that was just kind of a loss of a 50-50 as we saw them just maneuver into the entire maze that is that B site. But seeing it being doubled down, I thought it was a bit of a kind of a gimmick play where they get that first round, they allocate everything over there, and they're probably going to kind of manage to do that in the second one because they're not that much of a real loss if they end up doing this. Because they don't want to give up too much too early. They don't want to kind of show their default on the day side. And honestly, I don't blame Niner Esports for wanting to swap sides and go over to that side of the map and see if anything feels manageable over here and see whether or not the utility is or isn't there. They're going to find out it's not. They're probably going to hit A site once more when they get the full rifles, and that's when you see the actual allocation of resources go to that side of the map. But that's all theoretical right now. It also sounds like a right play, but then again, I'm a bit biased to my own opinion. And
let's see how it works.
We'll see if whether or not they actually live up to the tail on that. But an A push coming through inside main, waiting for that wall to come up. You're looking to overwhelm Asura, but right click is close enough to make quick work of this.
One enemy remaining.
Where are you aiming there, Asura, by the way?
Down
Not
A.
where your crosshairs against the wall. You only get one off the back of it. Wasn't ready for the second, but Frosty surely was. That one, though, can't really be predicted. Pichu up on box. Down goes one before falling instead, and it's a huge returning round for UCF Academy. Keeping 3 out of the 5 weapons they bring, finding solid instantaneous value in an A-sided take where there was a major lack of utility in comparison to B, where you have 2 Sentinels currently holding it down. You find success still nonetheless.
Right. I mean, good looks here for them, not really losing much in the process. Only a singular gun, and even then, I mean, it was a Spectre. Still holding them Bulldogs. Still have a couple of those Sheriffs. Would have liked maybe an upgrade for one of those to kind of hand back to save a bit of change. But this is a round that really matters. How expensive can you make this, where things really start to pile up? And even then, with already a bit of a setup, you understand that not 1, 2, but 3 players swing out. You can manage 2/3 of the equation to shut it down. Number advantage already in Niner Esports' favor, but that's only to be expected considering the kind of resources they're working with.
Satchel out.
So listen to boost back, quite wary of the possibility. Players are starting to aggress, but that flash gives you at least some information. They're not quite there.
My ult's ready.
Down goes Ruda. Doppelganger secured, but Asura just wants to swing those.
Blocking movement.
Why Asura feels it's absolutely necessary every single time, I'm not sure, but
Spike
at least they'll finally,
planted.
even thanks to a still 2v2. Paulo having assistance from Ghost. This is where that deadlock wall would be so strong, but this is also where it turns into a bigger problem than it may seemingly be. As well as cutting off that side of the site.
Oh, they're both in that cubby.
Last player standing.
Sif. One more.
Oh yeah!
Tapped
Monster
by
on
Ghost.
the loose.
Thrashed around. They know they could probably get the AoE. It's not just yet far. That
One
deadlock wall
enemy
disappeared.
remaining.
Why is Sif not holding the intel? Ghost round the bend. Barrel spotted inside of C's. That's targeted.
It's enough.
Huge for UCF Academy. And Ghost to save the day.
Clutch.
The two Sentinels lopping back from B to secure the A.
Outstanding work there, specifically from Ghost and even then Apollo in that scenario. But I mean, even then, around number 3 coming underway. I mean, massive for UCF to secure themselves 3 in a row for this half. But I'm still curious to know when this defense is going to start culminating on both halves of the map. We see the default, we see Deadlock, Cypher, both going over to B side again and again and again. And I understand that. I mean, maybe the game plan is just to make them funnel into that A site and guarantee it. The problem is if they hit B enough times, and I mean, whether or not they hit more shots realistically, as long as they have a player kind of sitting a little bit further back to play for those trades, I mean, all that feels like it could be so much more one-sided if used more appropriately.
Bomb buddy out.
Sheriffs in hands. What an interesting audio cue for the room, though.
At concealment.
Niner Esports know they don't have much to work with here, so they'll try to play for an early frag, maybe squeak one away, and then start to engage in towards the site. That B site, every time I look at the minimap, Dallas, is probably the most horrifying
here.
thing you can ever see as an attacking team, if you could see it in a VOD review. Please, VOD review, folks. Having that much Sentinel utility, maybe doing that in an eco round, it's not really the best looking.
Spike down,
Down goes
A.
Seth. This A site. They know they can stack the majority of their players here and not have a problem due to the util on B. But Niner Esports not finding the result they were hoping for will try to put some players in an island and bait away that they are in fact retreating elsewhere. As Pichu, the only Phantom in the round, uses it to deal with Frosties before falling back in return.
And even then, he can't even fall back far enough for that gun to be recovered. Just in a really awkward situation where C's is trying to get the job done. Now does actually have that gun to play with. And even in Q, the rotation
Spike
comes through
down
once more.
A.
I'm surprised the
30
team just didn't
seconds
pull the
left.
trigger on that B side and everybody else find a bit of a lap around and find that plate towards A because, well, I think that would have been your best chance. You go ahead,
told you
cover
you're
a
okay.
lot of
You're
information
okay,
of what that
fam.
B default
Good
looks like in terms of the utility because, I mean, with all of it that's there, there's only so much you can really do with it for it all to kind of maximize the efficiency of it. But
in this reality.
still, I mean, right now, another buy round coming away for Niner Esports. Being down, but not out for the count because, well, keep in mind that third round, things just didn't go their way. Fourth round was an eco. We see what this team can do with guns, and this is where UCF Academy has to wake up and shut it down at least one more time, I think, before they really secure themselves this half.
Yeah. Cannot let that foot fall off the pedal. Finally, the Niner Esports with a buy into their books. So we'll start to look off towards the B site.
My ult is
They're
ready.
going to have a big fear.
Blocking vision.
Plethora of utility stacked up. But with the early engagement, the early placement of that wall. Man, look at these trapwire angles. That is just gross.
Here.
The early placement of the wall. The Niner Esports just need to clear it first, which they are doing so here off towards Garden before engaging forward, trying to burn away any of the util that Cypher may have on side. Apollo waiting within 2 will not matter. Pichu from the drop now, the second time we've seen it. Niner Esports get that player advantage despite losing 1 to Ghost. It's fragged back. Viper spit down. Sees up close and personal. Guardian in hand. Sees the barrel. Throws down.
Oh!
As Asura rocks in front of the barrel and pays the price, it's back. A 1v2. Collectively 90 HP between the 2 remaining Niner Esports players.
One enemy
Pichu
remaining.
steps out of it. Pays the price and Sid has to frag it back. Major win for Niner Esports nonetheless.
You're not even concerned about the Viper Spit investment, and considering how close it was, you had to drop it. You made the showstopper come into play as a trade-off there, and everything you end up winning the round. While it was by a very close margin, it was a win nonetheless. You know, UCF Academy has full guns once more with just 4 rounds back-to-back, but knowing that, well, as we mentioned earlier, you look at that double sentinel, as I said, I mean, as scary as it looks for it, there are weaknesses. There are areas that you just really can't manage to get by in. That's the big strength of Arrays. If you're blast packing outside of that hookah window and you can just go ahead and fling yourself to back pipe, there's not even a factor of that utility to come into play.
Spike
Right now,
down
there's not
A.
a factor of 2 of the players in Niner Esports playing the rest of this round as they find themselves 6 feet under fairly quickly. So in a 4v3 situation, it's left with a lot of questions for Niner Esports of what can they do to maneuver this map? Where's their next move going to be taking place? What can they squeak through the cracks here? Because with a lot of emphasis towards that early A, you were hoping Pichu would maybe find another player come out on that B site, but that's just not something you can really sneak up on with all the utility that's already present.
Ghost hiding an elbow. If they don't have the best chance possible to extend, Pichu direct to site needs to start setting up some of the util. If they had it, they don't. Everything's already been burnt on the step forward, let alone afterwards. Spike starts to go down. Strange, I did not hear the audio cue for this. Riders went into third person, but UCF Academy are just barraging the Niner Esports Catalyst.
Yep.
As soon as you see something favor Niner Esports, UCF Academy somehow find a way to buy their ticket even further.
Thank you.
This defensive prowess, the stronghold that is these two sites, and the retaking ability of these players. I know the agents assist heavily, but they are clean on these retakes, and Niner Esports have no answer for it.
I mean, not having 2 players right at the start of the round doesn't help your case whatsoever. I mean, now we got to see Niner Esports slow things down, go back to that tried and true we saw this team originally. On the defensive side, they'd like to push out towards that showers. You saw that, I mean, more times than not, you were getting a pick coming through from that raise, but I mean, everything else afterwards is at the point where are you really getting all of the effort? Are you really getting rewarded for all of your efforts across the map? And are you even checking every single place like you should be? We saw on Lotus, they like that default. They didn't like pushing up too fast, at least on one side or the other. But here they just said, all right, let's default to one side of the map and then go there. This map is extremely small. It's easier to rotate here than it is anywhere else. I mean, check those corners, back up, recollect, and then do it again. I mean, you can do that 6 times over on this map, I feel like, and still have more than a time to get a reasonable execution down. So I think this whole kind of rushing process of kind of catching UCF off guard isn't working out for them because they can put the pressure onto the A side and meet you immediately every single time because they know you're not going to push B without having a lot of caution being thrown out there.
It's setting up to set up something further. It's a 2-step plan to a multi-level marketing level of annoyance that B site turns into for Niner Esports. It's just a beautiful satisfaction from UCF Academy for it. And we'll notice, you'll see it again. It's just the process. I talked about this bit yesterday. Yeah, I'd love to get a breakdown for Sentinels, you know, what is it, the Pimp My Crib version of, you know, Pimp My Site for Sentinels, and getting these two to do so. Because UCF Academy, that B site is an impossibility, especially when you're once again back down to a player and not really working with proper weapons. Pichu was dusted off towards showers, wasn't really able to find information, wasn't able to deny the old orb. That has been so solid for UCF Academy, so consistently in these rounds on this side for defense for them. They have information, the noise has been made, and the heads have been spotted
over there
inside of Hookah that this will in fact be a B take, and you do not need to transition your players just yet. Those Sentinels can handle this all by their lonesome.
I mean, when you got a Nightfall and you got Rays, I mean, honestly, I mean, the B site, as I said, it's not even really that scary. I mean, in theory, it looks like it, but I think it's just more so, this site is a bear. I mean, it's just it's presenting itself larger than what it really is. Quite frankly, I mean, you can get through that. You just have to go ahead and kind of present yourself a little bit larger already. Not even having the full guns, but still, here, you can see they have overrun it. They've given themselves a space, but because they took so long to do it,
30
the rest of the
seconds
team
left.
has already kind of recollected themselves on the site to find that counterplay.
Grim's waiting for the possibility of that being taken themselves, but it will be a full rotate for UCF Academy. No one will opt for TP. Ranger Stadium will have to step in through showers to assist. Sees smartly rotates elsewhere. Tasmanian Tiger out into open. Does see them at the last second. Sees has only a sheriff. There were weapons on the B site, but there just wasn't any chance for these 2 remaining players to pick them up and find use of it. Aiden, the only one who had one, falls first and sees the sheriff can't flick hard enough. It's 11 now for UCF Academy.
Yeah, good looks here already, getting things underway. I mean, making sure they only have one more to the match point, even then one more afterwards. But even then, you got to see the resources that are at hand. Now, once again, another technical full buy coming through. At least one player on a Guardian, another one on half armor. But I mean, 4 ultimates being here to work with. you're hoping that once again you can really start playing this game. And already I think that we've seen Niner Esports. They're getting to the point where they've hit this B side enough times by now where you can even see the pings coming out. They're registering that this is what the default is. This is where these guys put this utility. This site isn't that complicated. If anything, they can bypass everything. This map is fully open to them. They're not required to face A over and over again. But keep in mind, as I said, because they go very slowly to execute on B, they allow a wraparound and that execution to happen up towards A main to that attacking side. Occurring right now. So, I mean, all the ultimates are being thrown out right now. Pedal to the metal, but are they going to make it worth it?
Fire in the hole!
Wingman spotted by the camera on the wall. Ghost lapping away and gets hit from around the corner? What?
I've seen shots be right next to somebody not killed.
That's around a full corner riot. Frosty, one and done, and maybe.
One enemy
just
remaining.
Aiden has assistance now. Stuck in Octagon, free firing. Once Frosty's dead, but they just wanted it more. Niner Esports. What?
One dream ends.
I mean, that was
another
105,
begins.
but I mean, still, it's just. What's your dev salaries
here.
again?
I'm just
3
confused.
trillion?
It definitely hit
I could use a drop.
the wall in elbow. It did not hit Hall
I could
at
use a
all.
drop.
No, you saw that splash. Like, technically, if there was more kind of like, you know,
the
environmental
splash
collateral,
goes
that
through?
paint wouldn't even go around that corner. It should purely just go back towards that right angle and never bypass
What?
that.
Yeah, that's what. Did somebody at Riot
a
code it
CS
so that it's just a
volumetric
flat
smoke?
AoE?
You recreate bind in CS2, throw a volumetric smoke right there. That smoke never touches that corner. Swear by it.
That's true. Ball will be cleared off to Octagon. 2 players within Apollo, stuck within 2. Great swing by Pichu. Niner Esports starting to realize that speed necessarily is the name of the game on this B side as Ghost having a bit of a stare off here, a mid off. That's why Thrash comes up clutch now for Niner Esports. 2 players left for UCF Academy. The Soul buries 2 more in the process. Frosty's alongside them.
Woo!
Seekers forward, guiding light. Pichu
One
a corner.
enemy remaining.
Swings too wide, pays the price. It's a paint shell to secure. Azura deep into Octagon.
enemy
Wide swing
remaining.
for 1. The foot's not there. Azura. 4 kills. Guaranteeing UCF Academy now match point to send them to the 3rd map.
Understanding this map a little too late for the side of Niner Esports. I mean, we're sitting at match point. It's still a 3-round deficit, but the money isn't really going to be there for everybody. You're going to see once again another one of these awkward buys coming out. No ultimates to be playing with, while UCF Academy does have 3 at their disposal, and the other 2 aren't really all that close. But they got plenty of time to get things going if need be, and they can obviously let that time play into their favor. But hopefully we never really get there. But Niner Esports, I mean, honestly, as I said, I mean, it came to the point where they were playing A over and over and over again. I mean, you got to the point where these players on the A side have heated up so much and gotten so many free kills just off pushing you that they have all the confidence in the world to go for that retake on the B side just because you guys didn't want to invest in figuring it out during those early ecos. And now that they understand that it's not nearly as scary as I mentioned earlier, scary in theory, but in execution, I mean, a singular raise paint shell could go ahead and completely clear out this site. And more importantly, that crossfire of a tripwire you have coming outside that window. So we'll see what they want to do with it. They'll wait out this ultimate from the deadlock, and obviously with nothing off the factor of it, we're going to see whether or not they can get something going in OE main, and it's not there either. But Pichu is here, and find a trade for at least one of them, and he's kind of going ahead and creating a bit of a deadlock, no pun intended, on this site where players are having to kind of stall themselves together.
Spike planted.
Ruda takes the head off Apollo. Bag will try to step through its
player
toxic
standing.
screen, but Pichu's wisened up to it on the fallback on the actual proper step back for a post plant. Step through it themselves to ensure that frag. Ghost now lapping through, back of sight. Spots away 1, deals with them, and a neural theft now for Ghost. Where are the players? Where are they hiding? A stiff's position now within, behind Cubby will be known. Great timing to step away. Ghost finally dealt with. Niner Esports will survive at least another round. But is that win enough? They'll have to buy for Ruda and Aiden. They won't have the credits to do so themselves. They don't have any ultimates. Well, there's still a Cosmic Divide up for UCF Academy to split an objective in two for a retake they already had no problems with.
Yeah, while not much of an actual clutch on an individual basis from the players in that round, that's a clutch of a
Let's go
round
on my
to
way.
guarantee there for the Southeastern Esports. Good investment in that Viper's Pit. Understanding, dire situations cause
This
dire
goes here.
circumstances, and already they make sure to do exactly that. But even then more so, you got to look going forward. They made sure to block up the eco. They know this 8 push is going to come underway, and with the guns at hand, this is the one round where you should win it. But still, Frosty's is good for 2, making things look doable. But those guns aren't out in dodge. They're not off to the side. They're there. They are being protected and monitored. But still, the rest of these UCF players don't really have the best things to work with. Seemingly so. Niners
Last
will be
player
carrying
standing.
over 3 guns into the next round with nothing but 2 classics in hand and a lot of damage already done to Apollo unknowingly. Then, yeah, we should be seeing an 11-12. But, still, understanding the grasp of the situation, understanding that, how close that thing should have been. I'm curious to know really what's happening here because already Niners figured it out. They said that there's only 2 players here. No offense to them, but they're not really fragging it like they should be, and they're hoping to rely on their utility. Give them that false sense of security. Let them stay in that site because that's only 2 players to all of our 5 because they're allocating the other 3, hoping that utility will do enough to compensate for the lack of a player there. But when they understand the default stances, that Cypher always sits over back towards that elbow. That Deadlock always wants to sit inside tube and have that kind of free escape route if need be. And they say, it's at the point where it's just so streamlined, where, it's readable. But are they going to go for it again is the big question because we're at a point where it is 11-12. UCF Academy, they have the ball in their court to kind of be taking some risks here. But it seems like they understand after kind of gathering over to that B side that they're not going to go do anything crazy necessarily. But speaking of crazy, it's kind of insane to be popping to thrash that ult early, but it's understandable. You want to see if a shower fight goes underway. And while it does, it still comes out in Brutus' favor, who really hasn't been stepping up in this game, but this could be the round to really come back.
Sif reclaims the thrash. They stopped sending it out towards site purely for that purpose. Wisened up. Understanding there needs to be a next level. And with that first blood off to the A site, wonderfully done for Niner Esports to gain and maintain, hopefully for the time being, that man advantage. They can start to lap over to the B site instead. Still, all that utility is in play, but they know its weaknesses. It's that swift speed. But they need to quickly try to find out where Ghost is. Be a pop smoke for the brim quickly to go down. Flash will go down through long. Nobody there for the side of UCF Academy.
One more.
And Ghost just sprayed upon, known as all get out, it seems. As Thrash will go down through defender spawn. And the shotstopper Baruda blindly fired into the chest of Bag. No denying its deathness there. It's a 5v1 barrels towards Apollo. And Niner Esports.
Oh my God.
A flawless last round to force them into OT.
That is a huge
Switching
spike in
sides.
confidence for the Southeastern
Overtime.
Esports because, this defensive side is where they were able to kind of really start managing things. The only lead that was really culminated from UCF was that pistol round early on. While they won the next 2, as I said, when that return started to be made, it was Ruda just kind of buying that operator, giving over free death immediately. But now you're at the point where you have that guarantee of weapons. You don't have the ultimates to rely on anymore. It comes down to raw gun power and who can be finding these lined up shots. And it makes me curious to know, a lot of this advantage has been going over towards the shower side, whether it comes from the attack or defense, that massive lineup to start things off. And that's why you see a big investment from UCF, knowing that if a player is there, it should be a pretty easy pick as the pings are coming through, letting you know.
3 players off towards shower. Spike will be there as well. They'll leave 2 soft arms for UCF Academy on the attack closer towards B. Niner Esports, they did play a pretty heavy emphasis off to showers on their defending half of the first half, but since then we're not as heavy of a presence in comparison to UCF's approach there. As they did have a 4-round spree where UCF got every single ult orb in showers. Nothing that Niner Esports could do, even when they were hitting that A site to keep them back.
Not picking up any of them this time. That shower orb wasn't picked up by any of those players. They want to see if they can sneak their way through, but you're at the point now, they understand you have pushed your way up. You can grab it, but it really just comes down to who do you want to grab it. But
Bag's out
already.
first.
still, an absolute standstill, and Bag, honestly, going to be the main factor in this round, quite frankly. Just comes down to whether or not Rudy's going to be ready for this, and I highly doubt it. That's going to be a first blood, but it may be a quick trade to come out. A little bit of damage done, but still, no harm, no foul. 4v4 on the board.
You've just lost your
30
controller.
seconds left.
Yep.
This is not a clove. You cannot post-mortem place down your smokes and find use. Bag, who was doing so well early, it felt like, Dallas, of being that leader, of being that contributor, the main factor for so much of that success there. Now no longer an option as
10 seconds
Aiden,
left.
instead of falling
Spike
back
planted.
to the inside of heaven, goes
Sound
down to
sensor
hell
up.
instead. 4 versus 3, Niner Esports. Very aware of the audio cues being given in the rotate out and away from side in this post-plant scenario. Double cover. Peach, you can't swing it, and they know it. They'll fall back. Cage down on site. Ghost. So many towards Cubby. How many can you isolate?
Last player
Peach, you're not
standing.
standing for longer. It's Frosty's. As only sees, and they'll seize up in the moment. No way about it. UCF Academy, the first round in OT.
Switching sides.
You could add
Match
C's there to
point.
kind of really give you a bit of an assistance on the Radiant grade towards those players. I mean, you saw the 2 detected inside of U-Haul. You went ahead and killed the other one who was outside of U-Haul. So you understand that all 3 players will be swinging on that spike and check it. They are just absolutely petrified in the moment. But already, I mean, just not having the assistance, not having the trade, I mean, it could have at least been a 1v1 best case scenario. But now
There.
going back to the attacking side, this is where Niner Esports was struggling. So, I mean, this is UCF's game to lock down right here, right now, because past this point, I think the adaptability really does play into the Niners side if they can really just get a hold of this, because this B side, as we mentioned earlier, as much utility was being allocated over here, finally a third player is there to provide the backup as well. It just comes out of whether or not you get picked off early because of how aggressively they're playing towards that hookah area.
Octagon's claimed in control. 3 players on site. Bag again, the first to fall. Didn't matter for UCF last round, though. They held on. This time on the defense, lacking that controller. Maybe disastrous as the rotate comes through quite swiftly. Shower will be collected. Down goes Sif. Frosty's there.
Spike down A.
No one controlling sight. That's Spike, baby.
Oh my
UCF
God.
Academy. Major come up. And that's the Sky Flash. Not
Last
gonna go.
player standing.
Asura wrapped around. A 1v3 now for Pichu. If there was ever a time to have to hit every shot ahead of you, it'd be right here for Pichu. If UCF Academy take the win, they move on to a map 3 and have forced it after a disastrous map 1. Niner Esports had to make a major comeback in the second half when
30
things started to
seconds left.
falter. But they did it, and they've since been absent in OT. Pichu's got 20 seconds. Spike in hand. Camera's up on site. And it is being cautious as all it can be.
Oh my God!
Do they know there's one more?
10
You gotta
seconds
hold.
left.
There's Ghost for it!
Defenders
and
win.
UCF Academy with
Get
a
out of
triple
my
stack
seat.
in metal. Deal the final blow to end this one. 14-12. 1 round of OT is all that's needed.
I mean, just so close and yet so far there for Niners. But I mean, UCF, it's so, I mean, I'm just happy to see that they're at least finding themselves a light and a chance inside this series. But I mean, it was a much, much longer road for them. We saw no real aspect of dominance. We saw no real comfortability from them whatsoever. It felt like they were constantly on edge, knowing that looming, possibly, I mean, just that doom of being in a deficit at some point was just kind of haunting them to some extent. And as we go into Haven, I mean, things are going to be nearly the same. While we do see the neon pick coming out inside of Lotus, I'm expecting it to see kind of once again reoccur when it comes around to Haven because of how big those maps are and how much neon can really just take advantage of that with those fast rotates. But I mean, still, just too little given up early on. As I mentioned, I mean, the problem on Niner Esports, I think, was kind of a little bit slow on that attacking side to really just kind of understand what B was, because it let them just kind of think that A was the only option again and again and again. Another thing on the defensive side, the only thing, I mean, obviously that's going to be standing out to me, it's going to be those 3 rounds that we saw them start to lose when they really started to manage to get themselves a lead and really start to recover from that. It was 3 rounds in a row. You then go ahead, buy an operator, lose your most critical player who really has to be turning things up, who's not only a catalyst for finding a first blood, possibly, who we've seen more times than not kind of be successful towards showers, but swapping up the weapon and the position to go over towards B long, then trying to decide to sit on top of that truck. And at that point, you're not acclimated to those lineups yet. You have not been in that situation. You don't know how many players are swinging you. Maybe you're expecting a wild card saying, okay, nobody's going to come over here because they're going to want to swing me once again in showers. But you weren't there winning those fights consistently enough to put a lingering threat on that area where they have to check it every single time. So, I mean, Niners, I understand they're a good squad. There are still faults here that UCF can really take advantage of. And while it took them a while inside this map, it was still managed to give themselves at least something inside this series.
Yeah, this was a very tough map. And while we did see a much closer score, obviously going to OT than our very first map of the day, there's still one more map ahead of us, considering the result that just went down in front of us. Dallas, I'm super excited for this third map. I'm sure the viewers are as well. So let's take that break. Let's get these players ready, and let's see how the map of Haven's going to treat us. See you guys soon. We're back on a 3-objective map of Haven, Dallas. And while there was plenty of problems that arose on map 1, they seemingly were snuffed out on map 2. And while it was still close for UCF Academy, it still was maybe closer than they would have liked since Niner Esports managed to get them there in the first place. How will Haven pan out? What will the agent selection look like? Because binds didn't really turn into our standard default that we were expecting.
Yeah, I mean, map number 1 obviously was just not the best start for UCF. But I mean, map number 2, they really started kind of streamline some things. And even then more so it was coming down to their agent composition. I mean, seeing that I think it was more of a fault for Niners, just seeing what that team is made of. And I know I've been kind of glazing them all night, but it's just at that point where I'm at, like, we have seen this team in every single season of the SCL, and we've seen this team just kind of evolve with time. I mean, they were what I believe are like they've been number 3, number 2 in our entire league consistently. And just to see what they're doing and knowing what they're made of, it's just so impressive. But even then, more so, UCF as an entire program are absolutely, utterly disgusting. And I mean, for the academy team, you're kind of holding them that same exact standard. So map number 1 just didn't seem too hot for them. Map number 2, we're kind of expecting a little bit more of a warm up. We're expecting things to kind of go in their direction. But even then, with it being Niners pick, I'm expecting a bit of a wash there. But I mean, already once they get on the defense, things were just looking outstanding. I mean, UCF just found so many rounds on that attacking side that, I mean, while Niners, it just that's really all it came down to is their attacking side just felt a little bit slow to start things out, but their defense, better yet, with the lack of a sentinel there, I don't think that's the biggest determining factor for them. But I think it definitely helped with how they were looking for a lot of early fights that just didn't go their way.
Oh, we can look at the ban phase for the maps, right? It was either this or a Scent. That was kind of the final
Right.
choice. So you ban out a Scent. You don't want to play a map. Kind of the idea is if you're already going to have to go to a map 3, why would I play a map where it is a guaranteed even affair, which is going to be a slugfest? That's just how Ascent is. We've only seen, in all of SEL over the last seasons we've done here for Val Dallas, I think we've seen 2 Ascents that were not double digits both sides or like a 9-13 at the end result. Very rare seen Ascent go
Right.
anything else but fair. So you want to pay something where you maybe have something that's different, where it's a little bit less likely for it to be this. Now, Haven's been here a long, long time. It is one of those grandpas of the scene. It's been here since the closed alpha on the Twitch invites. We had to get drops for it. But it still is changing and always flowing with the agent selections and what's currently meta and what's fitting in well. It's a mirror matchup, though, between these two sides. Nothing too crazy is going to go up. It will be a cipher for your Sentinels onto site. Breaches, I think this would be a good spot for C's. I've highlighted them all day. Frosty's kind of stepping away from that Sky we saw they were really good on previously. You know, that's the Fade that they were good at on a standard level we saw on map 1. I think Breach will work well for them as well. The Jets, very different, it feels like, for Ruda, who's been very consistent about what they've been playing. Asura, though, showed they could do it on Raze. They showed they could do it on Neon. I'm honestly shocked we don't see the Neon here on Haven.
No, I'm in the same exact shoes. I was really confused to see that we're not seeing the Neon being brought out on this map, obviously, after yesterday. I mean, 2 teams who are kind of lower down in the tier 2 scene have even gotten adjusted to playing Neon on this map because it just feels like the thing to do. It feels like with the how large it is, and even then with Lotus and seeing how efficiently rotates were being able to be made, you just kind of want to fall into that same exact system here on Haven. I mean, it's literally not that different. As we said, it's just same map, less gimmicks. And when you're kind of working more tried and true, and when you get a free, perfect accuracy while sliding, with like we saw Sir take plenty of advantage of, it's crazy to see that they're not taking advantage of that.
Blocking sight.
Very wary. That's a poor tailwind. Clipping the corner, exit out from Hall. Still getting into the C side without a single loss to your team, and a pistol round is very successful right now for UCF Academy. Asura will have to wait for either the smoke to dissipate to fall back, but they'll do so a little bit earlier than normal. What a flick by Pichu. Ghost doing ghost things and kind of lagging behind, waiting to be that single fragger.
One
Not
enemy
paying off
remaining.
too much. Niner Esports on the step back in towards site. Perfect and clean. Only losing Pichu. Despite that, Pichu still found the success they were asked of with their single frag. It is a team ace for Niner Esports and a
Team
UCF
ace.
Academy loss for round 1, despite the ease of access they had to see.
Right, just wonderful discipline from Niners there to go ahead and just kind of wait things out and not give up too much early on. Understand that only take a pick when you had the lead there. And Pichu was the one who had a chance to even possibly find a bit of a spray through when it came around to finding that transfer hall between Garage and that C site. Could have taken a couple shots just to get some damage off, but understanding that that's not the game plan. That's not the purpose here. look for those definitive shots, wait for that tripwire to go off, maybe find somebody, look for the lap around, and just know that timing because you're so close to hear all those audibles occur. So, I mean, still, the rest of the team just doing business per usual, running on the site, just doing that retake, not even really on a piss around where you're too concerned with much because there's not much utility to play off of, and knowing that, well, the sheer amount of bullets that's going to be coming out from my man advantage is just enough to win the rounds.
Ruda will stay quite far forward.
Tripwire destroyed.
Trying to make sure that if there is any sort of aggression. I don't like that actually when you have a buy in round 2 after winning the first round being so far forward, because if you go down off of a rush, you've given them that weapon, which would have been a Spectre here in Ruda's hands. But it pays out. Single lone fragger that was going once again trying to lag back. Pacific Academy don't find too much value off of that. Paranoia barely whipping past Apollo, but the first thing that whips past them and rips through them will be the shots from that Bulldog. Sees the final frag in Niner Esports 2. With only a single weapon loss in the process. They're happy with the clown sticker they put up on the wall there. The spray. I apologize.
Round number 2 looking like a pretty darn good result for Niners, all things considered, but the 2 Bulldogs, we saw the Stinger make an upgrade back to that Bulldog that was dropped in the process and still a Guardian to manage, and Pichu's going for an upgrade. It seems like possibly maybe into that Phantom. Honestly, I just go for a Sheriff in this kind of circumstance because the rest of your team has guns. If they die, they drop. You got something to work with, but even then you still have something to defend yourself with, because with full buys coming out from UCF, I'm curious to see now how they really want to kind of unravel this map to a certain degree. And even then, better yet, I want to see what they want to start doing with this jet, whether or not it becomes a little more creative, because I mean, even then right now, we're trying to figure out what exactly still Neon could have presented here. And I feel like a whole heck of a lot more, but I mean, there's still plenty of time for me to be true.
Nice first frag for Bag. Do they know that Ruda is in this corner as well? Bag will TP out. I'm assuming they have at least an inkling for it. Something they opted not to just walk across. Beware of a possible secondary swing coming through for Niner Esports on the defense. That weapon can be collected, though, for your jet, Ruda. Maybe start to utilize that elsewhere. It'll be a step in towards C instead, mostly through garage. Trapwire is in play. That will be cleared. Shot connecting for Pichu, though. This Radiant crate will not buy you nearly enough to...
Oh my god!
Down,
C's joining in 2 apiece. Go ahead and knock yourself up a third. Why not?
Yeah.
It's Apollo stuck down long. Where can you possibly go to? A neural theft in round 3. They know where you are. There is no question of where you will lie and fall. It's just a matter of time as Apollo will wrap back around. Just biting,
30 seconds
hoping
left.
that Niner Esports start to move forward, and there it
Okay.
is. It's either Pichu or C's, and it's C's to take the 3.
Huge round there for Niners. I mean, just going ahead, making sure to get themselves not only a third, shutting down a lot of UCF, but managed to have 4 players alive to sustain weapon upgrades. That, I mean, this is the only thing that really makes sense here, saying what exactly happened. And off the back of an eco round, I mean, sure, I'm a little confused of what they could really manage in a round like this, because it's so early where you don't have ultimates, you don't have any kind of wild cards or ace up the sleeves to kind of throw a trick out there. But I mean, even then, there's so much to really kind of think about and gather in a round like that, saying what went wrong. And realistically, I don't know if any kind of util could have helped you out there. The Cypher was stunned. I mean, trapped inside their own cage. I mean, not much you can do there, but in that point of an octagon that is mere inches between the circumference, it's at that point where it's saying, if I can't win that, what can we really do? So, I mean, 20 seconds to figure it out, 20 seconds to reflect, but better yet, 20 seconds to just recollect yourself and say, I mean, just completely forget about it. Go back to business per usual. But Niners, we see what they do on 3-site maps. And I mean, with a 3-0 start, this is the best we've seen all night.
To be frank, you just got outgunned last round. Yeah, proper utility usage, it looked great. You had stunned them. You had set up and denied the trap wires through garage. You had already gotten first blood. Everything was perfect for UCF Academy. You just got outgunned. You stepped into Caesar's Bulldog. You didn't have a smoke towards back of sight. And while Pichu was stunned, completely known, and on a really good spot, stuck on the opposite side of Radiant Crate, instead of trying to fire through the Radiant Crate, because it is bangable, you try to push forward. It turns into a Sheriff's Strike straight to the dome, straight to the head, and a very unfortunate early loss of that life. Great job from Asura. Refrag's back. At least Niner Esports don't give that up for free, but that ult orb will have to be given up as that team is quickly rushing through long and started to apply that pressure through to A.
Able to go ahead and manage to pick up one of those guns, understanding the kind of unfortunate circumstances that's being presented here. A gun dropped, an upgrade for one person, sheriff's in the hands of everybody else. But I mean, still, where exactly are you going to be taking this? Because I mean, the A side and the B side are still your best bet when you have all these sheriffs to work with. C side, if you're going to be going down that long, treacherous kind of alleyway, you want to have something. Well, funny enough, Cypher's already squeezed through it. They're waiting for this flank to come underway. They're waiting to kind of really go ahead and do anything to make sure these rotates start coming underway. And honestly, Ghost, I think, has the opportunity to at least get 2 here.
Ghost has always been prowling. The first one misses, the second's good, and the third's also good. Massive deficit for Niner Esports. That's Cypher, the Prowl King. That is Ghost. That name is so fitting. In incorporeal form. Now Sif, spotted and away. Gets damage off to Apollo. Shock dart to the corner. Frosty's tapped by it. Where's that recon bolt going? They'll have the expectation that Sif is rotated away, but there's a recon bolt of your own. Sif steps towards side. Can you get Frosty's at the very least? Maybe they get back to Cubby. They do. You'll tap that, poke away from the splash, but it won't matter at the end of the day. Frosties, headshots galore, and a UCF Academy much needed round win after giving them 3 in a row at the start.
Yeah, big for them to go ahead and manage that one. But I mean, already so much money culminated here for Niners that I mean, it's not too big of a bit hit for them, considering that, well, the round prior to it, 4 of them picked up weapons for free at the hands of UCF. But even then, this gives an opportunity for Ruda. We talked about that operator. That was another big thing I was kind of going to be keeping in mind, is that we saw the Raisin map number 1, we saw the Raisin map number 2, and even then kind of started to find a bit of a system, but we didn't see the operator shots really start to land. We swap over to that jet, you're playing on the defensive side. It's kind of an expectation that your operating is really just kind of up to a T at that moment. It's starting to feel warm, it's starting to feel good, but when it didn't work out in that last map, it's really got to start to click here. Otherwise, it's going to feel like it's all for nothing.
Oh,
Stay down. My ult's ready.
Get your bag in the next round. Great shot from Ruda. Zura with assistance from their breach to try to extend in towards the B site. Rolling Thunder from B Link.
Last
C Link, I should say. And vacate the premises, but it is a Niner Esports slaughter. Everyone stuck in such a tiny area. Pichu trying to worm their way into sight. Sacrificial lamb, but this lamb stays. Mueller, a Sif saves their life on the hop and skip. Niner Esports up to 4. And that's why that B site's so darn difficult to extend into. If there's a breach in play, there's nothing but walls connecting from every single side and angle. And that's where breach is coming to play. It's just too darn difficult.
Yeah, I mean, obviously showing that UCF and all they had a chance to really do some damage with that last round and start to chain things together. The Niners just kind of going ahead and diminishing all kinds of possible, you know, just damage control, to take that from a scratch on the record to merely just holding the page. I mean, it's
Scanning ahead.
literally nothing to them. So really good to just kind of reconvene after that, collect yourself, and get right back into it, knowing that the last round, just as you said, I mean, just felt like an absolute slaughter towards that B side. You saw that BA connecting hallway, just not doing anything really good for him, and already we are seeing a good execution come through to kind of rebound on this. In a 5v4 situation, Nero's available, that's going ahead and makes perfect sense to pop right now. But you've already lost 2 players just trying to get that done. Operator's still trying to go ahead and manage something, but it's not going to happen. In a 2v1 scenario already, now it just comes down to Aiden. We've seen so many impactful shots remain in the flat number 1. Map number 2 is a bit of a different story, but map number 3, it's right back to that 3 side, baby. Feels right back at home, and, well, you can at least win 1, especially when Apollo's back is to you.
Much cleaner out. Now, a much better start for UCF Academy to take that B site. Look at the first player they killed. C's no longer on the board. That's that breach I was mentioning that makes that B site so tumultuous on its take. They get spiked down seemingly for free, and though they had the option to vacate away and start to move off towards Link, instead of falling back for a post plant inside of main, inside of lobby, in the walkway through mid, they take the Link approaches. Why? Aiden gets free 2 kills off the approach forward. That gives Ruda the chance to extend in despite an operator in hand, because they know they have Pichu not far behind them that can refrag. It was just a poorly executed post plant for UCF Academy, but a positive, a near gorgeous and perfect execution in the first place to sight. It just doesn't pan out for them. P2 shutting down Azura on the tailwind forward. Frosties has to refrag, but this will be a free sight for the taking on C, so that UCF Academy can now have to worry about a proper post-plant scenario. They've left Ghost maybe for a chance to prowl in through Garage late.
I mean, 3 pieces of util being invested right there just to go ahead and get that first blood and kind of find yourself something and still just managing a trade in that scenario. I mean, obviously good for Niners there, but I mean, UCF, you're expected to hit those shots perfectly. But your Jets already done the job. You found that pressure. You found that sight. You found that space to work with, but even then more so, you found maybe possibly a retake. Already, though, UCF just locking things down, just holding towards that back of the map. Civ can manage to get one. Aiden's there as well. So, I mean, it's a 2v3.
One
You got
enemy
the available,
remaining.
and you got the player kills as well. In a 5-2 scenario now on the board, it's only a 3-round delta for UCF here, but I mean, still manageable to come back from. But once again, we're in a scenario where Niners have just managed to find themselves so many free upgrades, courtesy of the hands of UCF players, that they can still manage to get buys after buys after buys. And I mean, honestly, it feels like this game is never going to be managing to see an eco for them unless they lose this one. But I mean, this whole kind of back and forth, we've seen it over and over again. UCF manages to get one, and the Niners just end up finding themselves a small string.
Those ultimates as well we see being super impactful in those rounds where you see Niner kind of make the comeback. There was the Rolling Thunder that came previously that completely shut them down in towards sight. There was the retake in the objective where you had an eco round that managed to turn things back in favor for Niner Esports with the headshots. They had a neural theft in that round. They gave a lot of intel to close and secure in the final moments. Like, Civ Academy just cannot let these first bloods go the other way, and then they have to be prepared properly to counteract these ultimates, and they just don't have the answer for it. Hunter's Fury to keep them off of the plant for the time being.
Nice try.
This is a little
Spike
slow
down,
to take
C.
down Apollo, but it's fine. Hosti's gonna refrag it.
Last player standing.
Now it is only the one remaining player of UCF Academy, that being Frosties.
Blast out.
Knows there's one coming defender spawn, assuming there's one in Garage. Great paranoia, and just on the edge of that short sight, there's Aiden to secure, who's at a much better map, as we had highlighted earlier, in comparison to map 2, looking a lot like the Niner Esports side we saw in map 1.
Yeah, majority of players alive to carry things over as well. Not too much of an investment in the ultimate. Sure, you lost 2 of them just to be invested there, but I mean, it felt like it was worth it. Those kinds of ultimates too. I mean, the Rolling Thunder, that's one that's going to be coming up here soon. The neural theft is very circumstantial to where, I mean, it's so cheap that you can just kind of pop it when you get it. But even in Sif, going ahead and having an understanding that this is the time to pop the Hunter's Fury, it's just good reads of saying, let's get these things out while we got them. You see too many teams fall into this hole where they held into ultimates for what feels like an entire half. But right there, you still got enough time to at least find yourself one more for those later stages when things really start to matter.
Rudo will start to take and claim space over towards A-Long. One of the things we noticed is that Ghost was the player that's always crowding, always extending. They don't really have the same thing for Niner Esports. They do not fight for that map control. They're very willing to give it up. Now they're looking to have
Spike
Rudo do
planted.
the exact same thing here. Just Aiden. Huge shot to take over from limb side to deal with the Soros, rotate backwards. Ghost who isolates Rudo, who is trying to fight for map control. You'll have a Hunter's Fury back in return. That's players in window. This is a actual post-plant setup for UCF Academy. And there's not much here for Niner Esports to try to deny this. Maybe from the shadows towards attacker spawn. Maybe something to try to wrap back and force them to turn. Breach utility will blind them out with the defuse. You can try to stick it if you can, as Aiden will set up another smoke, but none of it matters. If UCF Academy properly positioned for the plant they were given and used, it is a total dismantling of the Niner attempt.
Right. I mean, just an outstanding round there from UCF, or at least the last couple kills. I mean, it took them a while to get there, but I mean, they still managed to get the job done, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. I mean, a little bit awkward of a fight there for Niners. Nobody really wanted to swing out, just kind of wanting to hope that they can find that defuse off the back of the Dark Shroud, but I mean, that's just too much to ask for. There's going to be too many bullets, too many pieces of utility, and even then with the Hunter Fury invested, I mean, you got to know at that point that they are going to be just using literally everything just to bide that time. And by the time the actual swing came through, it felt like enough players were dead and enough utility was already invested just to go ahead and kind of alleviate time that it just doesn't matter.
Ruda taking advantage of the cheaper sniper.
Here.
We didn't like to see them with an operator
Spike
earlier. They'll
planted.
say, okay, well, an outlaw will do just as fine if I can hit both the shots. Well, they couldn't hit any of the shots with an operator. They can apparently do it with the outlaw. Evens up to a 4 versus 4, though, swiftly as a B plant does go down. This is where you start to maybe necessitate Niner Esports to actually do have a flanking player, but everyone is on the objective. So it'll be a very static attempt for this hold.
One enemy
Ultimate smokes in
remaining.
front.
Oh my
Shots
God.
connecting.
Last player
Apollo
standing.
in the corner. Takes a shot. Ruda. And Apollo
ready yet.
can. 6-4 now. The tally. UCF Academy just destroying the Niner Esports when it comes to this B site.
Yeah, close calls here, but I mean, still not really that big of a deal, all things considered, when you see how they're playing this thing out. Niners, I love this timeout call as well. I mean, obviously, you got a little bit left in the half. Things haven't been going too hot for you. It's been back and forth here and there. With you having the majority of the rounds, obviously, still to your name. But I mean, going ahead and understanding what exactly UCF is doing differently, I think really the biggest play here is that your A retakes are fine, your C retakes are fine, but your B retakes definitely could have a little bit of work, or better yet, just a better stall to make sure to deny that, because already we see Asura over and over and over again running in there and just finding the first death every single round, it feels like, to where honestly UCF more than enough of these rounds have been more of a 4v5 than anything. So for them to still manage to win those is just astronomical. And I mean, just shows that there's going to be a lot of pressure being put on to Asur specifically in the second half to really just kind of light things up, start to find some kills, because once he starts contributing more, I think this game just becomes way more one-sided.
Yeah, there has to be an elevation to that play. Sif has been so darn good on map 1. They were the player on map 1. And if you start to fall back just a little bit, look at the score result we see going into map 2. UCF Academy looks like they're primed up, though, and ready to attack that A site. Ghost has been so much more impactful throughout the entirety of this first half. Unlike Unbind, I felt like they were struggling a little bit early on Unbind before they found their comfort zone for their play style. No problems here, no quirks. There will be a huge dump of utility to try to force Niner Esports away from the possible ult orb off that side. They're really hoping to get that Blade Storm tallied up. Peruta will be denied it. We may actually see the first ever UCF Academy plant on the A side. They've been completely avoiding this objective the entirety of this map so far in this first half.
I mean, can you really blame them, though? I mean, it's been a nice big hold down. They don't really know what they're dishing themselves up against, but I mean, knowing that already, we've seen that C site's just been so difficult, and B site has been so successful. You eventually have to swap things up. You got to see and kind of provide a little bit of a litmus test, especially after the back of a timeout. That's going to be the timing, you think, honestly, where they're going to swap things up. They're going to allocate more players to B, so now's going to be the time to be going, hey, right, try something different. But still, they want to go right back to B. They want to give it at least their best shot, and still with enough time there, it's not going to be much. Bags on the cracks. They're going to go ahead and get back towards that spawn and lock things down. That is a free side. If I'd ever seen it, to go ahead and get your free
30 seconds left.
Craziest part is they had the From the Shadows. Could have dropped the spike and given it to Bag early to try to get them a free plant sooner. Kind of was expecting. They left Bag there on an island, worked all the way up through A long just to put Bag through short, then waited for the rotate because they knew Niner Esports had to go quick. They realized it was an eco round. Pichu waiting things out. Didn't even have to fall back. Reach utility keeps them away. Second one, make it a third. It's just a dumpage or hemorrhage of util. UCF Academy say, yeah, these may cost credits, but we are loaded with cash right now. We're gonna do everything we possibly can.
Last
Shots
player
connect.
standing.
Aiden gets the first. Sees finds something. Aiden's still down, the only one standing. Hoping that maybe the next few shots could find the heads of UCF Academy, but it will not come true. And Niner Esports,
Last
despite
round
the
before the
unbelievable start, going 6-2, have now fallen from their graces to a 6-5 and a very well possible 6-6 for UCF Academy at half.
Yeah, good looks. I mean, even then, Niners don't really have all the economy in the world that they want. I mean, sure, you still have a Bulldog that you're managing here for out of one of these players. I mean, that's not a bad gun by any means. And even then, still, you have the 3 ultimates to play with. But, I mean, what effort are they really going to be able to culminate off of this? Quite frankly, I think Rudy goes ahead and buys another player, gives that upgrade to season, and goes to Blade Storm and start things off. But honestly, even then, a bigger thing. One thing I would start to look at here is having just that rolling thunder to play with. You don't want any ultimates wasted this half thus far. From the Shadows can be used for a very, very quick recon, but already it's just not going to matter too much when Peachy's the one on side, managing to get a kill. We've seen this over and over again, always getting traded out. You weren't too bad of a spot there, so you can actually get in a dodge, work with the rest of your team, and go for this retake. Only one more pip away from an arrow death as well, so if you can manage to get one here, you get all the information in the world to know that you can just close out these kills. But one rolling thunder for another, and they're not aware of Bag in the back. And
One
you're
enemy
expecting
remaining.
a trade from Andy, but it may not even matter. A 3v2 scenario, it's a quick cleanup from Niners to get themselves a 7 to make it a 7-5 half at the end.
Aiden chatted. Aiden, shrouded steps past the Rolling Thunder,
Switching sides.
over to Platt, and Bag does not see them, and Aiden does not see Bag. The timing, insane. And while I would have loved to see the Rolling Thunder from C's a little bit sooner to maybe stop the plant in the first place, can't harp too much on a round win when Niner Esports were starting to need it. 7-5, you're split at half. And now the attack, the game plan shifts, and you are lacking the same level of player and the style of player that Ghost is for UCF Academy. Will Pichu fill that role? I don't think it's how they play. It's not how comfortable they are. And I think Ghost is going to do the exact same thing, but now on the defense, prowl around, find the gaps in the Niner Esports attack, and start to punish them. And they can't realize that soon enough and make sure these trap wires for your Cypher work out for your side.
Got to see really what they're going to manage here. I mean, already UCF Academy, they just can't squeak through those cracks as much as we saw in that last half. I mean, you can find it there. You can expect the flanks with the Cypher available for both sides. I mean, you're just going to hope those tripwires just snitch all the information that you're looking for. But I'm more curious to see what their kind of defaults are looking like, because while we do see a lot of emphasis on Garage in these early rounds, trying to see whether or not these teams put a lot of emphasis on it. Right now, we're looking at a little bit more of a B hit. Already so much of an investment towards that B side, or really not necessarily, just somewhat of one, still enough to kind of go ahead and hope that a rotation can be used through to maybe find yourself on that C side. But there has been no budging whatsoever. Just free real estate to work with here for the side of Niner Esports. The UCF are giving it to them. They're finding the shots. And more importantly, Bag doing the majority of the heavy lifting with a 3K for the round. But still, it's a 3v2 at the end of the conclusion for that. The Niners are looking to still get this plant down. Still looking to have any kind of
one enemy remaining.
But they just can't catch the break with the player that's over towards Cross. They're going to a little bit of a lineup. Back towards spawn, and well, obviously with the breach alive, it just feels too oppressive to do anything.
UCF Academy clap right back, pissed around for the second half. The exact same thing on Bind, where they had their major triumphant return. The first team to reach 12, and made Niner Esports have to reach 12 to force OT. They unfortunately couldn't find the first nor the second in a single round of that overtime limit. Well, the same thing played true here for UCF Academy. Time will tell. They'll go pretty heavy here on the defense. Map's fairly wide. You can take advantage of these larger scoped sight lines, especially when it comes to that seaside. One Guardian, two Bulldogs, a Stinger. Spread the love. Widen the margin as best as you can, as a Bulldog in hand here for Apollo will be stunned and concussed. Zura with only a sheriff. Ruda didn't see them in time, but that's still his head. That's gross, Ruda. Uncalled for. But it's still only a sheriff that's dropped. And not enough value to say 100% it was worth it.
Questionable though. I mean, a sheriff can definitely make the difference between a singular player, because that's what you're looking for. Some damage done over towards Apollo as well. So I mean, they're looking pretty good to possibly squeak something else out. But knowing with all the utility once again back up and available, especially the regenerative one and that recon dart, you know, you got time, you got resources to work with, and even better yet, you know, you got a player on backside. You didn't even need a recon dart. You knew the cage went up, but you know a player's gonna be there. But better yet, look under the rocket. It's a Stinger. Back and forth you go. You're just trying to delay time.
One enemy remaining.
Coming in from Bag, and it's here to play. Still, it sees locking things up with a clout in the hand, but when reinforcements arrive, I mean, there's only so many players you can take down with that gun.
You still got a lot of value in that round. You managed to drop away 3 of the weapons they were bringing. That's going to make them gamble or guess twice about how they need to play into the third round. Do they have to force? Do they try to buy up around it? And well, Azura, who opted for a sheriff in round 2, says, yep, I like my odds. Throw me down C-long, throw me down A-long, whatever direction I choose, it doesn't matter. I've got the boomstick in play. I saw Ruda trying to bring it in map 1 and 2. We say try because they never really found the success they were hoping for. I'm going to bring it in map 3. And early in map 3, they do indeed for this second half. One straight play and the 2 go down. Azura already matching the total kill count of Ruda with the operator across 3 maps.
True.
Here.
In a single shot, might I add. Oh, that is the unluckiest timing of all time.
I mean, you get a good headshot off. You get some good damage down lane, too. I mean, UCF not really finding everything they want, but I mean, still managing a lot of good efforts here. But Niner Esports in a really bad spot. Just, I mean, already guns in hand. This is a round that you're expecting to at least kind of run up the score, find something to play with. But, I mean, what you're dished out is what you got to deal with, and here we are on the A site looking to get this plant down. There's not really enough time to get a rotation going through, and with Pichu having literally just a singular health to his name, still manages to find one. And Asura up top as well, barely having any health, watching a lane, but I mean, everybody's too close to really make it count.
Should have been a freebie for Azura. Wasn't watching the right angle in Pichu. That little pip of HP doesn't matter if you hit your shots. Pichu's done that for 3 players in this round. The early loss of those 2 down on C-Long, since then flawless. Frosties will collect the operator.
They're
getting out of dodge. UCF Academy don't want the heat. They don't want the gas. Give Niner Esports that round. Save the operator for another. And find that instantaneous value elsewhere. 3, everyone else should still be able to buy, honestly, for the UCF Academy side. You're looking for about 1,800, even with the loss, to be able to full buy up for the next, unless you're a quite expensive Sentinel. So maybe Ghost could have some troubles, but Sniper's not that expensive.
My entire round was a 3v5, though. They still ended up losing it.
Very
No
impressive.
ultimates invested either.
I mean, just nothing there to work with to buff things out just by pure shots. It's just obviously squeaking out a kill. I mean, if that Bulldog was out and you didn't catch that timing through mid, I mean, it turns into a 2v5. And that's really the biggest thing you got to have. I mean, Pichu's going to be squeezing through those cracks every here and there. I mean, Pichu's the one you really got to keep your eyes on. Not only being the top fragger, able to go ahead and kind of hold their own on a site, but even then more so when they're squeaking through and they're kind of playing these different games. I mean, that guy's got to die, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. First blood still strikes for Azura. This one not a collateral. But still a result they're happy with. Move that operator around, flood into different sight lines every single round, and change things up. See long previously, this one Garage. Sorry, this one through B. Now holding Garage. As Niner Esports will make plenty of noise on their step up through to the A side. Paulo wanting to step forward.
Spike
Knocking down
A.
2 though.
1 enemy remaining.
Niner Esports left with only C's. Able to cut down Frosty's in bag, but still has 2 more in front of them. Azura with the operator and Ghost. They'll swing together.
Oh my God.
Perfect for C's. Too many times have we seen it come true, but thankfully the boomstick doesn't miss.
Good God. I've seen too many of those lineups tonight happen, and it scares me every single time. I mean, obviously, only one collateral we've actually come out from it being the operator at the start of a round, but even in these clutch scenarios and these 1vx's, that's where I start to clinch up a little bit, and it's just, it's scary every single time. It hasn't happened yet, but I mean, still, there's a possibility of what? Still, and I don't know, 5 to 10 rounds in this game, so definitely still probable.
Aljoan up and around the bends. Zura knows they're not going to swing that any further. They did a right job. They changed up where the operator was, but they've gone fairly linear. CBA, kind of expected. Major Rolling Thunder, that is spike down as well, and that will slow down the approach despite the use of the Rolling Thunder and the ultimate now for Niner Esports. Ghost, still back plat. Bag up on 2, but Frosty's swinging towards plat. It doesn't matter. It's flawless for UCF Academy.
That round right there, that lets you know they're getting the hang of it. They're understanding what they're having to go up against, and they're at the point where honestly they don't have Niner Esports numbers per se, but I mean they got at least enough pressure exerted on them right now to cause one more timeout to be made. And I'm loving these situations where we're seeing these teams actually exercise their right to get these timeouts out, 1 on each half, which is now really good to see. But even then, I mean, it's at such a contentious spot where these players are in such a weird area. I mean, two neural thefts, 2 from the shadows available. I mean, and everything else just comes down to economy. That wasn't the round that Niner Esports were really made to win just because purely of their buys that were at hand. But I mean, UCF Academy, they're really starting to understand that, well, our operator just feels a little more consistent. Our shots, I mean, while not really there sometimes, but it feels like Niner Esports have a lot more individual moments that they all take turns in doing rather than just culminating it all at once.
Timeouts tend to be, well, sometimes they can be pretty important. We had a pretty useless one on map 1 that we were talking and harping about for a long time, but to be fair, UCF Academy just didn't really have much in map 1 in the first place. Since then, though, it's been their game to lose, and they're hard-pressed to find situations where they do lose them. Maybe this time out for Niner Esports, yes, they'll see maybe what kind of intel we can find early, scope out maybe a little bit more of how they're going to default in this round, find that operator and run it down to try to get that operator out of their hands. It can only fire so fast here, folks. The problem is it can fire and hit more than one player like you just saw 3 rounds prior. So what is going to be the answer? The looks of things, it'll be early pressure in towards mid. Maybe a player to extend towards showers, but a B rush would be a fairly wise idea. You just need to clear away that trap wire. Rito stares directly at it, unnecessarily knowing. Great smoke to be placed, making it a whole lot harder to find that trap wire securely and safely. They sense themselves further. There's a hit. Ruda goes. That's Frosty's, though. Down go 2, make it 3. Frosty's will finally fall, but Bag is still there and standing. And Bag wants that Bag. Make it 1 more. Just Peachy remaining, having to run away. Rushing forward. They used the neural theft. I'm assuming they still had 2 teammates alive at that point before we had Bag rush forward. But they got what they needed, the operator. If they can get rid of it, hide it away, tuck it elsewhere.
Oh, you made all the noise in the world for that.
I think they were hoping that they would fall back.
This is UCF's game to win now. I mean, even then, still, as you mentioned, the neural theft, regardless of when it was popped and who was alive, it takes time to upload. Plain and simple. You're not going to find that instantaneous reward that you're expecting off of it. There's a charge up time, and I mean, by the time it actually got those ticks, everybody ended up being dead, except for a singular player. Even then, we saw that it was just mere milliseconds where Pichu could have also been dead. So, UCF Academy, this is their game to win. Just comes at it whether or not Niners can really just pull out an upset here. Because while we look at that, checkpoint chokehold scenario right now for UCF Academy, they have enough resources to really just kind of throw everything at the problem to see whether or not something sticks.
Issue is, even a damp paper towel will stick. And that's not a well-formulated plot. I know Niner Esports have not been able to find any intel yet in this round. No intel to showers. Bag is there. They don't know it. They went all the way through A long, but yet still nothing. Maybe Pichu hunting and hoping that they can channel their inner ghost. Unfortunately, no one's given Ghost, aka Pichu, in this round the time of day. But it means that A site's clear. They'll step into the site for a plant. Smoke goes up to heaven. Smoke goes to outer hall. Pichu will go ahead and start to spray, hoping that they can deny the TP. The Bag is still there yet in time. They'll throw their own dark cover over towards long. Try to create that sightline denial. Blade Storm popped. Smoke will dissipate soon and Hall. They'll throw out their Cloud Burst to separate 3 players in hell. One gets sent there. Huge for Niner Esports. All still standing. Only Frosty's now remains. And they know exactly where Frosty's is. Burning out the util, keeping them back. This Frosty's engaged. They might as well. They've got the eco. They're on a 4-round spree. They want to try to make it even harder for Niner, but they will fail.
Gun here.
Flawless result for Niner Esports, and they finally feel, with a little bit of confidence with a result like that, they have a chance back in.
Yeah, I mean, that round was just almost flawless, all things considered. I mean, at least the execution itself was. Maybe not the player count, but I mean, that's not really what I'm looking at. We're looking for results here, and I mean, Niner Esports was able to find it, but even then UCF Academy, I mean, they invested a little bit into that, not enough to really matter too much, but still just enough to kind of understand that, I mean, that kind of should have worked out better for them. So for that not really to kind of go the way they expected, or even look any prettier than what they wanted, this kind of round is what really starts to matter. You see that lineup once more, where Asura is going to be having that operator for the majority of the game, if not all of it now, because it feels like they're just always going to have the money to purchase this gun. Or that locks off that C site. You have to start keeping more of an eye towards garage. That's where you got number 8, Bag, sitting there, waiting, hoping that somebody overextends and wants to kind of try them to some degree. But right there, that matchup between Bag and Aiden, I think, really is what this entire map could come down to. Because sure, you're expecting to sort of hit those shots. But thing is, if you got any sense, you're not swinging it in the first place.
Aljone's so useful for Niner Esports on the attack. Just making sure 100%.
Cover.
Swing directly into the operator on C long. Once they know it's there, they start to extend to A. It pans out. Honestly, great job from Pichu to set up a denial for sight line, clear out the trap wire and the cam. Set up a team for a possible plant. but
Spike
that
down
utility-
A.
Oh, Rolling Thunder, Frosties in
Goodness.
general. It's just an execution, quite literally, of every player on site. As they'll bait away
30 seconds left.
from the shadows to collect the spike on site. And they'll rotate to try to find their new home elsewhere. But honestly, a great read by UCF Academy here in Dallas. They've already rotated. They're already ready, but Sip was 2. Phantom in that range, no matter. Bags off, operator. You can't miss it, Azura!
10 seconds left.
Unreal.
Spike planted.
It's a spike plant. What should never have even been an option is now there.
One enemy
This one
remaining.
will not be a missed opportunity. And Aiden still slightly stunned, still slightly blind. Forced now to watch as the defuse goes through and UCF Academy get 2 more rounds ahead.
I'm surprised that they even got the chance to push onto that C side. I mean, obviously, you saw Bag holding it down, hoping to find at least a little bit of an effort there to work with. But I'm surprised that at that point, Asura wasn't just holding it the entire time. UCF's hold on that A site was huge because when you make that call saying the Rolling Thunder's coming through, then what really are you going to be doing as an operator? You can swing that back up towards heaven, but you got 2 players on site who can literally just walk up and just press W towards their opponent, and there's not going to be too much they can do. I mean, obviously, you got to hit that first shot or everything past it is completely out the window. So, I mean, seeing how they just completely deterred Niners to go somewhere else along the map, they haven't really wanted to be touching this B side at all, which I believe is going to be a fault of theirs as the course of this game goes on, because we did see UCF Academy find themselves good, chunky bits of rounds. But problem is, B doesn't need to be a factor when the operator that's been holding down the C lane just dies from overextension and just becoming an airborne target.
Where's the dog from Duck Hunt? I want to hear the chuckle.
Oh.
You go too high, it's easy pickings afterwards. Bag who was trying to hide by the Radiant crate just from the outer lip of that smoke. They had something cooking, but got cooked instead. Niner Esports. Possible double digits on the horizon. It is a 5 versus 2. UCF Academy, we've seen miracles come
One
from them, but
enemy
this round does not seem to be home
Flawless.
for it. Flawless for Niner Esports, and that's seemingly the only way, Dallas, that Niner Esports can get a round win.
I mean,
It's
something
either
though.
perfection or nothing.
Right. I mean, but it's always enough. I mean, it's enough not only just for that round particularly, but to carry things over to the next as well. I mean, we've
Careful
seen that.
there.
I mean, the money game has been on just point for every single side so far. I mean, while we've seen a lot of ecos having to come out from the side of the Niners, UCF has been doing a great job of keeping it sustainable. We haven't seen a singular round, it feels like, since what feels like the fourth ever since Marasura isn't holding on to an operator at the beginning of that round start. And that's A, because you're managing to keep that player alive, which is really important, but better yet, you're over and over and over again winning these rounds by such a good marginal team that it would be expected on the attacking side, where you have that spike, you're getting all that extra money being made. But I mean, UCF doesn't have that. They're on defense. This is purely just by them winning.
Shadows traveling.
Bag trying to escape as fast as humanly possible. Very low on HP, but we'll get out of there by the skin of their team. Niner Esports now down a player. Well, Rolling Thunder, the A site, they just want it more, it seems. The flash goes through quite the distance for Frost. He's just trying to relegate them and force that Niner Esports side off. Connecting shots. That one just misses. Seas will get hit by the last. It doesn't move. Another kill now. And UCF Academy staying even with the next. Shot from above. Sif sends them to hell instead. A 2 versus 3. 40 seconds is plenty of time to rotate. But the neural theft is just pipping them. They know it. Niner Esports will stay slow. Wait out for the smoke.
30
20
seconds
seconds
left.
for the second. They may wait for the full total usage of this kit. But everyone on UCF wants this. Recon bolt over.
One
Shots
enemy
have to
remaining.
hit. Sid could do it
Spike
first.
down A.
One more shot opportunity. It's not given well. And UCF Academy holds strong on A to reach 12.
Match point.
This team finally going ahead and finding their form. It took them a long while to get here, and still the score doesn't really reflect it too much. But I mean, just what we saw on Bind. I mean, wins are wins. You don't care what the deficit really ends up being. It's just the fact that even then they had to kind of really rebound this, because that first half wasn't starting off too hot, especially with that 3-0 start. We thought the Niner Esports would be closing this thing out within what feels like 18 rounds. But now that we see things start to kind of really click, UCF their defense has been much better. And we even saw that on Bind. I mean, this is the half it feels like they really start to get a better understanding of this game when they kind of want to extend more, when they want to hold back. Their variability, their diversity, and their approaches to these defenses look so much better when they know they have very solid players holding on to particular parts of the map.
First blood falls to UCF Academy. And it's only going their way since Aiden may get one
enemy remaining.
Short-lived.
Oh my
Spike
god.
down.
Remaining. Able to flick to Frosties. One more on side. You don't know Ghost is there.
Defenders
Incorporeal.
win.
My
Silence.
truths stay hidden for
And
one
the
day
A
more.
site's a cemetery. 13-10. It's UCF Academy, Dallas, to make the comeback after a poor map 1 to
Right.
turn it around. Lotus wasn't yours, but sure as heck Bind and Haven will be.
I mean, just seeing what they've done and seeing how they accomplished that entire game. I mean, it's just, I'm happy to see that UCF found their form. And especially being a secondary team or tertiary team, I believe they now have 3 teams because I don't know if they did like with their UCF Knights Rising, if that's now their primary team or if they found a
They
partnership.
call it a sister team. Saw it in chat
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, but I mean, seeing what they've done, I mean, with the academy, what they've done here, I mean, obviously you're still expecting to hold them to that standard where, I mean, they're expected to be freshmen, sophomore, kind of your early stages. They're still going to be held to that same standard as everybody else, knowing that you're supposed to be reaching the same level of greatness that this program expects. But I mean, just seeing how they're doing it, it's still very clear they're in these early ages, which isn't really that much of a problem. They're still in the upper echelon of tier 2. They still had themselves a chance over the course of the season, but shutting down the Niners this early is also a very, very big feat for them, whether it be by a margin of an overtime in 2 rounds, whether it be by 3 rounds when it comes around to map number 3, or even then. But I mean, no matter what, you still have that map number 1 that still has to be reviewed. So that's to say what exactly happened here, because obviously if it's just the nerves and you're just kind of going ahead and getting informed for game day, that's understandable, but still that's a hill that has to be overcome nonetheless, because you can't be coming back from a deficit every single match.
Yeah, it's hard pressed to take a loss in week 2. It's not really where you want to be, but I still think Niner Esports, we know their history, we know how accoladed they are. They're going
Right.
to be able to make that comeback. We'd even mentioned at the start of map 2, even if things went wrong, they're a team that's good enough to try to, bring themselves back up to the fight, up to full fruition and try to find that success. This is just a slight speed bump in the ultimate ride for them, for the journey that is this season 5 of SCL for this first split. But UCF, they're the only team that gets to be crowned victors here, and they get to climb up even higher in their seeding. And they are most definitely the team to watch right now, as Niner Esports will lick their wounds, head back home, and the team they'll be facing next week may have a lot to fear after they take a loss like this. They may be up for a beating. We'll have to see how that pans out. But before then, that's it for us this week here, Dallas. We've had a lot of Valorant action, a lot of Rocket League action, and there's more to come next week. Don't go anywhere. My name's Infernos, joined here by Mick. Make sure to check out our socials. Make sure to check out Esport SEL socials. I'm sure there's panels down below or something. Maybe we've made them, or check the chat. I'm sure our social media
Got it.
manager will throw them in there. We'll see you guys next week. Stay tuned for more.